Hey, it's John Carlos, and I am here once again to discuss horror things with
Eddie!
Eddie. Do you know what day it is?
What day is it, John Carlos?
Garbage Day! We are here.
I thought you were gonna say Christmas
No,
Day.
you fell for it. No, we're here to talk about Silent Night, Deadly Night. It is the Christmas season. It is mere days away from Christmas. And
Yeah.
it started out, everybody, that we were going to talk about Silent Night, Deadly Night. And let's do part two, because part two is fun. And then eventually, like, oh, well, 3 and 4 and 5 are on Tubi. And, well, fuck it. Because I forget where you fall. I've seen 1 and 2, and I saw the remake. So watching 3, 4, and 5 was brand new for me.
I'd only seen 1 and 2, so the rest of it was all new. We'll get there.
Yeah, we will get there. Well, let's start with the good, because Silent Night, Deadly Night, no matter how off the rails this franchise goes, you can't take away the first movie from me.
No.
And I think it's a hoot. I think it's a great time. I did not grow up with it in the 80s. I watched it for the first time maybe a year or two before you watched it for your first time with me. So
you're the reason I saw it. Yeah.
If anything, I don't remember what documentary I was watching. It might have been the long, like the big 2-hour documentary on Return of the Living Dead. Maybe it was not. It was something. There was a movie that featured Linnea Quigley, and when they got to her part of the documentary, they talked about like her legacy, and it showed a clip from Silent Night, Deadly Night. This is a movie that like I've always been aware of the video box at Blockbuster. My whole life, that fucking chimney with the
arm.
Yeah. But it wasn't until I was already a fan because of Return of the Living Dead and Night of the Demons.
Yeah.
Where when they was just showed a clip of her like coming out of the door with her tits out, and I was just like, wait, what? Silent Night, Deadly Night had Linnea Quigley in it? Well, I guess I got to see this movie now.
Yeah.
Like, that was my triggering moment. Was because to me,
mine was, of course.
I mean, 80s Linnea Quigley in
gets the job done. Yeah. I mean, and also like what more perfect role for her to play in that movie. But no, the only thing that had me, because I don't think I knew anything going in. It had always been on the periphery, and you were like encouraging me a few years back to see it on one of these movie weekends with my sister and with Tracy, and I remember being kind of aghast. Because even though I was with it the entire time, I never really quite knew what to make of it. Like, I mean, let's just jump right in. Like, it first off, like, I wonder what it was like seeing it in the theater, or even on VHS for the first time, if people experienced it that way, which I know a lot of people must have. But seeing it in the Scream Factory edition, I remember just thinking, and I still think it every time I watch it, that establishing shot of just like the mountains and the family like driving out, like the countryside is so pretty. It's so pristine, and it looks, and I don't know, and then you just see like the little thing like 1971 Christmas, and it just I remember I was just kind of like, oh, how pretty. I mean, this is a horror movie, so I know it's not going to last, but this is nice. I wonder where this is going to go. And it's not like the whole movie, like sometimes it's grainy as shit. Like, I'm not even talking about the director's cut. I mean, sometimes, it's low budget filmmaking, so you can't always be there like pulling focus. But, and just watching the little boy version of Billy.
The littler boy,
the tiny boy.
There's a time jump.
The pre-trauma Billy.
There's a time jump, and like they look like they're the same age. So I'm like, what was the point of this?
Oh, they don't look the same age to me. He looks a little older and a little more weary.
And if I'm not mistaken, he goes from brown eyes to blue eyes
to blue eyes to brown eyes. Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway.
And there's a similar trajectory with his brother, which we'll get into. But no, I just remember watching him talk to his parents, and I was just like, oh my God, what a cute little kid. Like it's totally kid acting, but it's the kind of, a parent kid acting that can still win you over, you know, can still just I love the fact that little baby Richard was up front with absolutely no car seat.
Oh yeah.
And the baby, and they're all just so happy, just sitting there, just like, you know, like, whatever, it's Christmas. Hey kid, when it's, you know, if we get into an accident, this baby's fucked. But
But the parents, though, especially the mom, do a good job of selling you on like, we're a happy family, la la. Like, I actually think the parents really well cast and give a good performance considering
I do too.
their amount of screen
Well,
time.
they give these knowing glances to each other. They're always kind of, even the dad. I was watching recently. The dad just kind of, you know, a lot of that, and and you feel so kind of reassured. You don't know quite where it's going to go. So when we finally meet Grandpa, okay,
Okay, Grandpa.
fucking Grandpa. I wanted to say. I remember he looked familiar then. I don't remember if we looked it up, but I looked it up subsequently, and I realized why I recognize him. I mean, he was a character actor named Will Hare. He worked a lot, but he was in. I mean, he was in Pennies from Heaven. He was in The Rose. But the thing that everybody's going to know him from, in the first Back to the Future movie, he's Old Man Peabody, who's there. My pine!
Oh,
Take that, you
shit.
mutated son of a bitch! That is Grandpa.
The Twin Pines, which becomes the
Yeah.
Lone Pines, is his. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my God, does he sell it in this movie? He
Jesus.
still shakes me when I watch his performance. Just everything, and even just the, you know,
How's that?
just you know, the good kind of little children. I mean,
It's and it's such a weird. I like that it's. I don't know if I'm using this correctly. It's not apropos of nothing, but like we don't really learn anything to justify why he's like, "Hey, Billy, Santa is good to the good kids. You know what he does to the bad kids? Punishes them." You're like, wait, what? And then back to comatose. Okay, why? No, why? We don't give you a why.
I always felt
Which
like,
to me is actually more traumatic for Billy.
Oh, fuck yeah, absolutely. But
Nope.
it's also, if you want to do the math in your, or not in the math, but just kind of like do the work in your head, which of course we're horror fans. That's what we're born
Post-combat.
for. I like imagining that he went through a similar situation to Billy and Ricky, but he just never got killed. He's just in a home. Like he survived it all up until this point. So that's who Billy would have grown up to be
Oh
had
my
he
God.
lived.
You know what you make me want now?
What?
The fucking Silent Night prequel with Grandpa.
Yes!
And he's the original, and that's where Punish like first comes from and shit.
Oh my heart.
It's
oh
a
my
period
God. Like
film.
it's a legacy that's being inherited and passed down. That would be, oh my
Yeah.
God, if they Final Destination 5'd it.
Yeah. Like, or also just like every time they do like, we're doing like a reboot, but we're gonna like, or a reboot sequel, like a reboot-quel. But
Yeah.
we're gonna give it like, you can call it Silent Night, whatever the fuck you want. But like,
Sure.
we think it's a reboot and it's really a prequel in canon.
Oh, I think that's a sensational idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's get the rights and do it, Giancarlos.
We could probably make something better than 3, 4, and 5.
We'll get there. But no, I mean, everything about that is absolutely disturbing and earth-shattering, especially to watch him, to this tiny little boy who's like this tall. You know, I'm on the floor, so he's like this tall. But he God, I don't know. It's odd because you watch it and it doesn't feel, and I don't want to denigrate it, but I will say, like, I wouldn't sell this as like, you know, like groundbreaking filmmaking or anything like that. You know, like it's very much of its genre, but I feel like that that is not putting it down. It's very much of its genre, and I feel like for what it is, it's kind of a best example of what it is, because even though it you're largely conscious of the fact that you're watching a movie pretty much the whole time, it doesn't mean you don't get like wrapped up in it. It doesn't mean you don't respond continuously. I'm never bored, and I'm never I don't know. So many horror films that I've watched this past year, I realize how much of them I spend waiting. or sequels, like of franchises that we've like dove into, like there's the kind of that inevitable like watch check, or or now check my phone, just kind of be like, or check the time signature, see how much time I have left. I never do that with this movie. I'm there for the whole thing, for the whole ride, and yeah, even when it does reach kind of a lull toward the end, it's not a big one. It's
actually,
like,
yeah, this is the first time I did a time check, and it wasn't as a I'm bored, but like in my head, I always remember the climax of the movie taking up more of a chunk of the movie. And when we first like cut to the school in the daytime in the snow, not the school,
yeah,
the orphanage, and we're
yeah,
going,
yeah.
really? And then I checked the time, like, oh, we only have like 10 minutes left. I forgot how much the movie takes place before we get to the climax. I just, I don't know, in my head.
No, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Billy's Wild Night.
The movie does, yeah, it doesn't break any new ground. Although I will say there are things about it that you don't see a lot of. And that is, like, there's a lot of horror movies where the villain is the icon, but you still have yourself a protagonist and antagonist, and it's usually the villain. But this is one of the rare cases where, like, the monster, the killer, the villain is your main character.
Yeah.
And not only that, not like in a Devil's Rejects kind of way, but we also, it's not just some sadistic story to show why he's bad, but like it's actually a very sympathetic story. So we're also, I don't want to say we're rooting for him, but we definitely understand him, because I'm never rooting for what he's doing, but I am in conflict about everything that's made him into a monster. And at the same time, even though it's not as simple as it could be, I couldn't help but thinking, this is the first time it clicked in my head, that like we spend so much time showing all the traumas that eventually lead to him being 18 and what gets triggered into being a killer, that like you see him, well, let's just go through the list.
Okay.
Gets traumatized by grandpa. That's already creepy and weird.
Yeah.
Watched his parents get killed by a random Santa. Not just killed, but his mom gets like sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
He's growing up in this orphanage with Mother Superior. Like he watches these teens have sex, and then like he learns that like that's a punishable offense.
Yeah. Very naughty.
Being naughty ends up him being tied up to a bed by Mother Superior. And then being like forced to like deal with Santa when he doesn't, like all these things, right? And I kept thinking about how like we spend the first third of this movie leading up to like Billy the Monster. And even though it doesn't seem like that obvious, but I'm watching how the other nun is kind of like his Loomis.
Huh.
How she's like, she understands, she sees the warning signs. He's on a rampage as an adult, or as an 18-year-old. She's the one kind of saying, hey, this is what's going on, we need to find him. She's the Loomis of the story. I couldn't help but thinking, like, did Rob Zombie watch this, and when it was time to remake Halloween was like, because I know it was just like, we're going to show more of young Mike Myers, but this movie really does show like the first third of a child growing into this monster. And then we still have like a Loomis coming in the third act, and I'm like, I'm not saying he ripped it off. It just wouldn't surprise me if he enjoys the structure of this movie and thought, what if I applied a little of this to that?
I never made that connection. I can't even really wrap my head around it right now because my brain's kind of fried. But I mean, by the holidays,
it could just be him saying, "Look, I wanted to see more of little Mike in the asylum," and that's fine. But for some reason, it popped in my head this time.
Yeah, no, that never occurred to me. That's interesting. I think that's really interesting because even though I don't agree that Sister Margaret is, I mean, it's interesting. I'd have to really think about that too, about Sister Margaret being his Loomis.
But she's not. Elements. But there's elements.
I get where you're going. The problem is I know too much about, like, I guess her passive role in his abuse as a child.
It's more in the present, just her kind of role in that, even though it's not as weighty. It's not as much screen time. She's still,
but I also
still understands what's happening.
Idly, but the way she stands idly by while Mother Superior ties him to a bed, she's the one who turns off the light and shuts the door on him while he's pleading not to be tied to a bed.
I didn't say she's perfect. I'm just saying there's elements where she seems to be like, hey, this over there. Come on. I'm Loomis in this
She
moment.
seems to try. I think the whole thing when we see her introduce him at 18 from the rest of the movie on is her basically atoning for the neglect that she is responsible for
Absolutely.
in his upbringing. Yeah, absolutely. But and I feel like she even receives. Well, that's one thing that makes her bearable to me. Why I don't just kind of dismiss her right off the bat is because I like her being kind of like the only person who's going along in the movie, like trying to reach him, not getting a hold of him, knowing kind of what that might mean. She
Right.
knows enough to go. I mean, she takes her sweet time. They have a whole Christmas party before she gets to the store. Um, but like knows to go there, sees the smashed window,
Right.
sees all the bodies, and
But
and just kind of prays and goes to the police and
but
is
her
always
going
just
to the
kind of like,
store
yeah,
to me is
tailing
very
him.
Loomis. Her going to the police, like those beats are kind of there in a
Sure,
way.
but I don't know.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. She's not my favorite character. The more I
She's
watch it, the
better
more
than Mother
she's.
Superior.
Is she?
Yes.
There are times where I almost feel like she is the Smee to Mother Superior's Captain Hook, because this is the thing. Even as a boy, little tangent for y'all. Even as a boy, I remember going on that fucking Peter Pan, ride over in Fantasyland in Disneyland. And I remember before I ever saw Peter Pan, just seeing when Hook is like, the Croc is trying to
Mm-hmm.
swallow Hook and everything, and Smee's just there in his robot, like, "Oh, save you, Kevin!" And that terrified the shit out of me because I saw the way he was designed, and something in my child mind told me, like, oh, you're supposed to be like a funny character, almost kind of like a silly, non-threatening character. And that made him scary as shit to me, because especially once I saw the movie, I was like, I was right. He's complicit, but he's like one of those people who's like a bad guy, but doesn't think he's a bad guy. And
Oh
I
no,
could
but
even,
yeah.
I even had a nightmare once. I had a nightmare once that I was being tied up by Mr. Smee, and I was in the dark, and he was apologizing to me the whole time because he was going to get in trouble with Captain Hook if he didn't tie me up like this, and like whatever's going to happen to me is going to happen to me. And I remember that was terrifying to me because he wanted me to still see him as a nice guy, and that fucked me up. And I don't know where it came from, but I think of that's I think of her more along those lines than I do as a Loomis.
Okay, I see your point. I will just say that once we jump to the present,
Yes.
Mother Superior isn't attempting atonement. Mother Superior
Oh
is
dear
coming
God,
out
no.
and trying to help.
Right.
Therefore, Mother Superior is a monster. Mother, what's her name, is just sort of complicit and should know better.
I don't know.
And
Again, I don't know if one is less or one is more excusable than the other. I feel like they're both guilty, and that's it. But I will acknowledge she does play an active role in trying to prevent
I'll say
further degradation. But she doesn't help. She's the reason that what's his name, Father, the deaf priest.
oh, yeah.
Wait, I have it written down. I want Father O'Brien. She
Well, why
is
didn't
the
he?
reason
Yeah.
Father O'Brien does not make it to the end of the movie.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way. I'll tell you my gut feeling, which is at the end of the movie, I always feel like, damn it, I wanted Mother Superior to get her comeuppance.
Oh,
I never
God.
feel that way about the other one. But
No, that's
the
true.
thing.
I never want Sister Margaret to pay with her life. I would
Correct.
actually feel bad if that happened to her. I'd be like, God, look at
Therefore,
all of this loss.
therefore, Mother Superior to me is worse.
Okay. I concur then because
What my heart
I
tells
gotta
me.
because I have to tell you when Mother Superior. Okay, first of all, I love that actress. I have it written down. Lillian Chauvin.
I wish she came back for 2. I wish we had continuity.
I do too. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But no, because she was. I mean, like, to hear Robert Brian Wilson, Billy at 18 years old, speak about her, like she was kind of like the matriarch of that set, and especially to him as an actor, he felt like she mentored him. He was still young. He was getting his footing and everything, and so she kind of taught him professionalism and focus and all that kind of stuff, like how to like really give himself room as an actor. And I appreciate her for that, because when you think of her as an actress, you can see what she's doing. She's nurse ratcheting. Yeah. She's doing, I feel like she does exactly what I love Louise Fletcher does in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is, again, this is effective. A character who doesn't think they're bad, who thinks, or even if they have something in the back of their mind, it's almost like the mission is the most important thing, like they can't see beyond like their bullseye, and that's fucking dangerous as fuck, and it makes her so scary and makes me hate her so much. And yeah, I still, even when I just see the replay in part 2, when we have to watch Billy die again and collapse, and he even grabs onto her arm and she does that, I'm like, ugh, I'm so enraged. I'm so angry because it's an injustice, because he was a victim. I think I had to ask myself, why do I love this movie so much, which has 2 attempted rapes on women and they're both have their shirts tore open, absolutely no dignity allotted to them. And it's, if you try to explain it to somebody, the fun might get lost. But so I was just kind of like, well, going in this time, it had been a little while since I'd seen my Blue. So revisiting it, I was just kind of like, well, why do I love this movie? And I think the reason is because ultimately, like you mentioned already, Billy is our protagonist. And you said you never rooted for him. I actually do kind of root for him sometimes.
I mean,
I to my shame, but I'll own it.
To a certain degree, I root for his potential rehabilitation and well-being, but I never root for like, oh, hey, those kids are kind of bullies when they're taking those kids' sleds. Shut their fucking heads off. Like, no, I'm not rooting for fucking Billy.
No, I didn't like it. I got like white supremacist vibes from those 2 kids. I didn't like it.
they would, if being the 80s now, they'd be like white nationalists.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like also, okay, we're all over the place, but these 2 kids, like how much of a weenie do you have to be to bully some other kids out of their sleds so you can go sledding down the fucking hill in the middle of the night? I mean, like, yeah, what kind of badass are you? I root for those nerds, and because those nerds don't, and I hate even calling them nerds, they were just boys. The first time I came back to the movie, I forgot that they got bullied. I thought those boys that we meet in the beginning were the ones who got killed. So when the bullies came in, I'm like, oh, I had forgot about that. Okay, that's why he kills them. That's why they're naughty. That made sense to me. And so I was okay with it.
No, I mean, I'm okay with it in that horror movie sense of,
right.
And this goes back to Halloween and Friday the 13th. They're like, they're sinners, so now I want to see them get punished because this is the basic rules of the movie. Sure. And also, I appreciate one of the things I like about Billy as a killer, and this is just a simple comedy thing, but I just like the idea of him popping into frame, just going naughty or punish. Just like it's so Bane in Batman and Robin. It's just it's punish.
Yes! Oh my God, it is.
So and that's probably one of the best ones. Is just like going down sledding and then.
Yeah. But the thing about it, to get back to Mother Superior, because she is our heavy. The thing that gets me the most about her, I think, is also, I mean, it's a million tiny little things. There is a broad overarching thing that you can kind of cite. But the thing is, I noticed like just things like when she's talking to Sister Margaret's saying like, well, they look at the drawing and they're fretting over the fate of this child being lost or whatever. And she's just kind of like, I just wrote the end of the line, but she's just like, just because something happened to him, which he knows nothing about. And I'm like, bitch, he's drawing this shit for a reason. What you just decided he knows nothing about it.
She
so
chose
you can
that.
just continue with your own agenda and just like, I know what's right and everything. Like, see, you know what? That's what I was waiting for. I kept waiting for Sister Margaret. Call the fucking cops on the Mother Superior. She's breaking the law. Even in 1984, she was breaking the law. Well, it was the 70s, so I don't know what kinds of laws were in place.
I'm not excusing it. But you do see this, and Lord knows this has been talked about a lot this year.
Yeah.
A certain subject of like being in a position where your superiors are clearly in the wrong or doing wrong things, but the fear of speaking up is the fear of retaliation, the fear of losing your job, the fear of punishment. And I'm not saying it excuses her actions just the way maybe it doesn't excuse other people in real life, but I at least get where she's coming from. It's not coming from a place of, yes, fuck Billy, he's a little shit. It is, she knows what's wrong, and she's too scared to do the right fucking choice. Yeah.
Yeah, she's torn. I wish we could have gotten maybe one more scene of her praying, Sister Margaret, just like praying for God to give her a sign or something of like, what should she do?
Fucking whipping herself. Guilt, yeah, just flailing. Yeah.
She doesn't need to, what's the word? It's not chastise, there's another word, but she doesn't need to, whatever it is.
Isn't it flagellation? I don't fucking know.
I think I think it's flatulation, to flatulate herself.
Flagellation, yeah.
Yeah. Because
the last thing this movie needs is more women fucking in pain and peril. So
because I'm trying to make sure. Wait, because flatulence is farting. Flagellation.
No, with a G. Yeah.
Okay, flagellation.
Although if she wanted to do self-flatulation, I would probably really like that scene too.
Self-flatulence, just
like Billy gets tied up. It's all serious, and then she goes into the room, closes the door. She looks all solemn. Just really
like a long drawn out one that sounds wet at the end. God. This is silly.
But how do you make a movie better for me? Add farts.
But I mean, because Mother Superior is the one who extols those virtues that fuck up Billy's head even more so with the punishment is good, punishment is necessary, that he keeps echoing throughout the whole thing. And that's the greatest injustice to me of the finale, is the fact that like she doesn't get to suffer, at least in the first movie, she doesn't get to suffer because of her own suffer directly because of her own neglect and her own abuse. It's not that I would have been fine with Billy dying, but if he could have killed her first and then gotten shot, and then he could have told the kids everything is safe. Actually, that would have broken my heart. If he could have told the kids, like Santa Claus is gone, it would mean so much more, because it'd be like, he is, because you can't go after the Santa who killed your parents, but you can go after the person who was supposed to take care of you after that, who abused you and fucked up your head and everything like that. And you're wise enough in your heart and in your gut to know that what you're doing is wrong. But that, finally the evil is defeated, and that even means yourself. So that would almost kind of set them free. But the thing that does set me free is seeing little Ricky at the end. Ricky at the end. Lucy! But no,
fucking bongos.
Yeah, right. That would have been a whole other movie. But seeing Ricky at the end, just because, I never noticed until I watched it this last time, when Robert Brian Wilson first walks into the orphanage with his Santa, and he's all, he just looks all benign and happy, and he's smiling, and the kid's all happy to see him. If you look at Ricky in the background, the little kid actor he's not even in focus, I don't think, but he's quite clearly like, and he's the only one, which tells me, oh, yeah, you don't think it's Santa Claus. You're just like, Billy's back, my big brother. Because all the other kids are just, whatever.
Yeah, it was, I always thought it was interesting choice that they made some random kid come and let him in, because it always seemed like that would be something that Ricky would do. But it allows us to kind of ignore Ricky for a bit until the end, because then it's more of a beat than having to be such an active player in that scene.
Absolutely.
But yeah, for a movie where your protagonist, I guess, is the killer, and there's no, by that standard, there's no villain, but the closest thing you have to a villain is Mother Superior. And in that sense, by having her be the villain, it's not a complaint, but I always just go, oh, like that's the one thing that leave him wanting more is, man, I wanted something to happen to her, which is why it's somewhat satisfying.
But seeing Ricky, but even just at the end of the movie, seeing Ricky,
that tease. Well,
like that is the cherry on the top. I'm like, okay, ready for a sequel now.
Even if you never saw 2 and didn't know there was a 2, you already know, like, well, he's going to take care of it someday. That is literally like what's happening.
And I think you told me that right because I was so angry, but then I saw it, I was like, yeah, get her! Oh, fuck, the movie's over! is there another one? And I think you told me, yeah, there's another one, and it's about him. I'm like, ah! And you told me not to get too excited. And then I went and I saw it, and because I knew going in, like, oh, okay. But anyway, we'll get to that when we cross it. But yes.
I got to point out a little thing that really struck me this time more than other times.
Yeah.
The idea that he is, to me, one of the most blatant, puts it all on Front Street movie villains, in that it is instilled in him as a child. Santa punishes the bad kids. It is instilled in him that when he sees his parents get killed, like, he immediately goes, oh, I guess they must have been naughty. Like, you've got a Mother Superior drilling into his head when he's seeing people fucking.
Yeah.
This is a bad thing. So you get to a point where he now has a code, right?
Yeah.
Generally, prior to this movie, you'd have things like Halloween, where it was, I don't want to say the subtext, but it was, we set up Laurie Strode as purity. We set up her friends as the ones who fuck and drink and cuss, and they're the bad ones. So you have evil versus purity. You've got Friday the 13th, where the mom's MO was, you weren't watching my kid because you were off fucking, and the kid grows up to be a killer. Presumably he's following his mom's same MO. So they never flat out say, like, oh, well, Jason does this. But you go into a Friday the 13th movie and you know, oh, see those kids smoking? They're fucked. See those kids fucking? They're fucked.
Yeah.
This movie, though, flat out, like, he says, he sees you doing, he goes, punish, naughty. Like, there's a tit out, naughty, you know?
Yes.
I just find it interesting that within the genre, it's always been unspoken or subtext. But for this movie, it is the text. It is the killer's doctrine. It is not subtle. I just appreciate how on Front Street it is.
As do I, even though it did, I mean, because I think the only kill I really can't get behind, for a confusing reason, is Linnea Quigley's. Just because it's like, well, you're just a girl, who's topless, who's trying to get your cat in the house. The cat even makes it into the house, but he somehow knows because you're naked, well, you're being naughty.
Look, the filmmakers don't set it up this way, but I always presume that in the basement that they're in, there's like, or whatever room there's like, when basements have like a little high window that's low to the ground. I presume Billy's already watched them, and when you hear the jingle,
you hear the jingle, and she
that's
thinks it's
him.
The cat.
Yeah,
that's
like, he's
him.
already witnessed shenanigans. So, like,
sure,
like
sending the girl back upstairs and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay, I mean, but that said, still, like, that's the one I can get behind probably the least, that Billy commits anyway, because. But one thing that warmed my heart was seeing the interview on this disc that Linnea Quigley did an interview just for Silent Night, Deadly Night on this disc. She talked about how they told her you're going to pull your pants on, but you're going to be topless, and she was just kind of like, to answer the door, like, to go to my porch. I think I'm pretty sure I'd pull a shirt on and she knows if it's nudity and if it's required, she's going to do it. But she, just logistically, just kind of, I'm pretty sure I'd put a shirt on it. I don't know how believable it is for a girl to, go to her front door and open it on Christmas, Eve with all her neighbors.
No. It's the 80s, and we're men, and we're producers. Your tits are going to be out.
No, the thing that they used to justify it, which I thought was very sly, was they said, no, you can't wear a shirt because for the kill, we need to be able to see the antlers go through your torso, and you need to be bare-chested for that. And I'm just like, couldn't she have given her like a little like crop top or something?
I'm going to play a producer for this
Quigley.
moment.
You don't hire Linnea Quigley to do that.
No, but I, as a producer, here's what I say. You answer the door with a shirt on. When he comes in, there's a kerfuffle, and the shirt gets ripped. Now you're bare-chested for the stab. You just have to stage it differently.
Sure. But that was the answer they gave.
That's too much work, though. Like, just answer the door with your tits out.
Yeah, right. And she was just like, okay, because I'm Linnea Quigley and that's what I do. Sure, why not? And she felt, apparently she felt comfortable the entire time that she was doing it too, which is cool. That's good. Like everybody was really cool.
I gotta say, two things about Linnea Quigley in this movie.
Yeah.
One is, you know, she brings a certain what I consider Linnea Quigley-ness to things. It's most things. I can never do her voice perfectly, but there's sort of a way of talking that, like, when she talks, it's gonna sound. And I'm like, and this is what I come to a Linnea Quigley performance for.
Yes.
And yet she doesn't really milk that in this movie. It is probably one of her most quote unquote like natural, normal kind of character she's played.
Yeah.
Having said that, though, that level of kind of, I don't want to call it cheese, because there is a kind of sarcastic and very specific way that she kind of can play things. When Billy comes in the door, like, I don't think she gets enough credit for how believably scared she is.
Fuck yeah.
In her murder scene, in multiple takes. Like, she is great in it in a way that I don't think about her being great in like Return of the Living Dead, or think about her being great in. It's a more traditional form of like, oh shit, like this is like your most like legit kind of. Yeah, I'm not laughing at your funny lines. You're not really cool makeup. You're just a really scared girl. There's a guy who's like,
there's a guy who's like a head taller than you, who's coming into your house, who's picking you up and throwing you all over the place. Yeah. And everything that is in her reaction is absolutely authentic. I don't question it for a minute.
Yeah, even before
it doesn't even feel like a performance.
He bursts through the door and she's just does this like, and she runs and it's great.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of
It just makes me wish in a weird way that, like, even though I love her as Linnea Quigley, you know, like in more Hollywood, what was it, the Chainsaw Hollywood Hookers or whatever, like that's all fun, but I kind of wish she'd gotten to play more of this in her career.
Yeah.
Well,
that would have been cool. But and what's interesting is, though, even though it is completely authentic and I'm right there with her and he's throwing around, and again, it's the kill I root for the least. The thing is, there's still something about the way it's shot that, even though it's kinetic and it's involving and it's as visceral as it needs to be, there's also still like a little ka-ching for me that goes in especially when I watch like the director's cut, when you actually get to see like the horns poking through, and I'm just kind of like, oh, practical effects, baby! And I don't know if that would have been my response. Yeah, and I don't know if that would have been my response as a kid, if I would have seen this at a younger age, like an inappropriate age, but there is something about it that is satisfying, that just like, to the point where when I'm watching the extended cut, I really appreciate the work that they did. And as much as I do, this is also a case where I appreciate both cuts kind of equally. I can either watch my theatrical disc or I can watch the uncut one, and I still feel like I'm getting the movie. Like, the thing that I appreciate about the theatrical cut with this particular kill is the reveal of her is, being up on the antlers and everything like that, when her lover finally comes up and sees her. I wrote his name here somewhere, I don't remember. He's in other stuff too, though. I remember him mostly from Halloween Curse of Michael Myers as the Howard Stern shock jock guy. Yeah, which says, I bet she wears edible panties and all that stuff. Canadian actor.
Yeah.
But
he's familiar.
Yeah. And but there's something about when he goes back up to, like, check things out and everything, and then he just turns around and that's the first time we see her. There's some power in that, but I also appreciate, like, the close-up intricacies of the kill, and even if it's if it's grainier than the grainiest of the the 2K scan, I still appreciate witnessing it. I don't mind if it flips from one resolution to the other.
You're sick,
pretty much.
No, the thing that I like about that kill is I like how slow it is, because a lot of times you see this in Lost Boys, you see this in so many movies, you see it in fucking Hannibal, people being thrown on the antlers, and it's usually pretty quick. This is the only time I can recall, like, and then she really gets the process. Like, wow, like, that's pretty gnarly, actually.
Could you do that again?
I don't know. That was pretty close to my Arnold.
It was just shy of it. It was it's just Arnold enough. Yeah. Merry Christmas to me. Okay.
You're welcome. No, but the fact that they take so much time with it, and like you said, had
Yes.
you seen it when you were younger, I feel like if I'd seen that scene when I was younger, it would have bothered me more because now I enjoy it. But if I saw that at
Yeah.
like 6 or 7, the fact that it's such a slow kill would have kind of fucked me up that she gets to process it while it's happening,
Sure.
as opposed to
Yeah.
just boom, and then we cut to them going, bleh, you know.
But it is close. I mean, if I'd seen this when I was 6 or 7, I would have probably seen the theatrical cut, which is a little quicker, you
Yeah.
know?
Well,
So I might have been able to bear that, but the reveal, I think the reveal might have fucked me up. I might not have looked at like, no, I mean, it's not like I ever normalized deer's heads on walls or anything like that. I never really was around racks, you know, like
right.
mounted on the wall all that much when I was a kid. But
Or in that case, there's 2 different kinds of racks mounted on the wall.
there you go.
Was that
Low
supposed to be
hanging
intentional?
fruit.
I didn't think about that. Sorry, was that like we mounted her?
Maybe that's
But-
why they. You know what? That would have been a good reason for them to tell her. That's another reason you can't have your shirt because we have a sight gag.
Yeah.
Your rack on the rack.
Rack.
Yeah. But
And
that would have been shit too.
and just to be fair to the character's name is Denise. It's not just Linnea Quigley. This is a
Mm-hmm. Yes.
because one of my notes is Denise's slow kill. So anyway.
Yeah. Oh,
Yay
and
for
Tommy,
Denise.
Leo Geeter or Getter.
Yeah, and I remember he felt very Johnny and Karate Kid to me.
Oh yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Also, by the way, I just adore in movies when it makes me laugh. I don't generally like it, but he comes up and the way he's standing in the room, he would see her already, but then he goes, and I'm like,
Yeah.
bitch, this wasn't like the horse blinders. Like, you would have seen her. It just cracks me up.
I would have asked.
She's literally like she's right there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, that doesn't bother me though.
No, it doesn't bother me. It just makes me laugh.
Right.
And that comes up quite a bit. I'll get to it in 2. There's a really good one of that.
Yeah.
That I like.
But another thing that I absolutely fucking adore in this film, I actually wish there had been more of it in the uncut one. I crave it every time. Sometimes, like, you laugh at something, you wonder if it's even supposed to be funny. Like, maybe you just think it's funny, but it's at the Christmas party right after Billy commits the first 3 kills with his fucking coworker.
I hope you're gonna say what I hope you're gonna say. But
okay,
continue,
and the girl, and then Mr. Sims goes in the back, and it's where is it? Do I have her name here somewhere? Oh, I thought I put it there. Anyway, she's there and she's going, Mr. Sims!
there it is.
Mr. Sims! And it's never quite the same as it is in the first one where it's like Mr. Sims. And all I wanted, because she only does it maybe about 3 or 4 times, and that's great. I love it.
But they're perfect 3 or 4 times.
But I would no, because this is the thing. I wish she could have continued to go through into the back going, Mr. Sims could have discovered his body and could have gone, Mr. Sims! And then when she sees Billy and he looks all scary, she'd be like, You killed Mr. Sims!
Even though
Lord, Mr. Sims is dead.
Even though on the one hand, you're totally right, that would have been great.
Yes.
But on the other hand, they didn't ever overplay. Like, we're lucky that we got these perfect 3 or 4 Mr. Sims.
And even though I don't have her name written down, she was also in a Halloween movie too. She was in Halloween 4. She's one of the people who goes to collect Michael Myers out of, God got nothing to do with this place. Take him in the bus. She's the woman. There's a man and a woman. And they get that thumb thing, to kill both of them. And she's the female, I guess, paramedic who gets killed in that crash. So so we got 2 Halloween related alumnists, in this movie. So that's before I think before both of them did their movies. So yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I love her. I fucking love her.
No, she's great. She's one of the best parts of the movie. I feel like I'm sure you have more to say, and I'm almost done with one. But now
Okay,
I feel like you have more to say on this subject than I do. But let me just say, I
please.
think you already know his name, but Billy,
Robert Brian Wilson.
Robert Brian Wilson. Of course, he's got a 3 name. He's an actor. Um,
Yeah.
when we first get introduced to him and we do this pan up, and he's just got this like little smile, and I'm just like, well, you have your own reaction. I'm just saying, no, but there is a he. Say what you want about this movie, but that is an interesting role to play, and I think he finds just the right note of like innocence, where I believe he's older, and he's definitely older, but he's clearly been raised to a certain degree of, I don't want to say sheltered, but he's been educated, but like he's well intentioned. He's kind of innocent. He's got a nice little innocent smile guy. I'm rooting for him. I don't want to see bad things to happen to him. Even he like hands over the like the box cutter, and he's just so earnest.
Yeah.
And when asked to play such a traumatized, here, you got to wear the Santa suit. What? And to even the simplicity of just like angry guy and punish. Props to him. He really does carry this whole fucking movie.
So much fun.
I would go say he's great. Like, God bless him. That's all.
I agree.
Yeah,
no, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, granted, eye candy for days, absolutely. And I remember even the first time I thought it, but I didn't react because I was like, okay, calm down.
yeah, you didn't say anything when we watched it, but I remember you posted about something later. I was like, oh, I didn't. Okay, cool.
No, because I remember, I think I just said like, first time watching Silent Night, Deadly Night, on one story, and then the next story was just a photo. But never saw this movie, but I love it, and Billy can get it, by the way, but and it was just that smirk that. But it's infamous. It's got its own little not GIF, but just like its own little graphic on Instagram stories now too. I just posted it, but no, because I remember like I was just kind of like, okay, yeah, ring a ding 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 ding, yeah, that's great. But I was so into the movie, I just wanted to be like, okay, but what are you going to do with the role? And the reason I didn't kind of like, I remember my sister even commented, she's like, yeah, I was like, what's wrong with you? It's totally your type. He's a killer and he's hot and he's innocent, but not, It's
you do love your psychopath killers. You really do.
I certainly do.
You love your Norman Bates.
Give
you
me
love your
broad
Hannibal
shoulders.
Lecters.
Give me broad shoulders and an evil eye, and I'm yours. But no, but I remember I was
Famous
really
last
loving.
words.
I was really loving the right. No, I was really loving the movie, and I didn't want to, I don't need to jump through hoops and be like, oh my god, like okay, let's stop the movie. No, I really wanted to see where they were going to go with it, and I was hoping that he was gonna, because it seemed like kind of a joke, the reveal, the pan up of him and everything, and I was so connected to that kid, both versions, the little boy and then little boy, that I was like, okay, is he gonna make me care about him? And the great thing was it was immediately followed by that montage, and that's probably a huge gift to inviting me into Robert Brian Wilson's magic, because he manages to nail that kind of like milk-fed farm boy vibe, and and when like right, literally milk-fed, when the guy, oh god, we all had such a good laugh, and I still laugh out loud every time his little rapist coworker offers him like a drink of whatever it is that he's drinking, a shot of whatever he's drinking, and he's like pulls out the milk like, no, I'm drinking the milk, buddy. It's all silent too, it's like a silent movie. And the fact that he's making eyes at what's her name, the girl Pamela? I think so. It's Pamela. Yeah, Pamela. He's making eyes at Pamela the whole time, and I'm just kind of like, oh, he likes someone. Oh, then I started to feel more maternal toward this kid, which is basically how I feel around a lot of younger gays. I'm just kind of like, oh, honey, are you getting enough? To eat.
Food with your mouth. To eat food with your mouth.
Food.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
not balls.
Is he good to you? Is he good? Okay. I don't know if I like him yet. That kind of thing.
Right.
So I just felt very protective. So I'm like, oh my God, he seems to have kind of adjusted, and he likes a girl, and everybody in the store seems to appreciate him because he straightens the, what is it? There's like some display, and there's the manager, Mr. Sims, standing there, and something's off, and he like fixes it or something, and Mr. Sims is just there like, that boy, you can really rely on him. But I think my favorite thing, where I was just kind of like, but he is Billy, was when they reveal the banner that just says like, it was either Merry Christmas, I
Yeah,
think, with
Merry
Santa,
Christmas,
yeah,
yeah.
with Santa's face on the end. And you just see this shot of Robert Brian Wilson just like all, like, and it was so earnest. It was not played for laughs, but it wasn't like, it wasn't like, like dire, and like, it was perfect. It was the perfect note, because I'm just, and I was just like, okay. And then the rest of the movie, I was just like right there with him, and I was so proud of him. And I'm so, I don't know, and also to know that he loves the performance, and loves being kind of like celebrated for it, and that he works the convention circuit. And the photos I've seen with people, I'm so jealous. People standing next to him like in his Santa suit and everything, and I'm going out of my mind, like my head would explode. But
That's not all that would explode.
I know I have decorum. I know how to behave around, the men I love. I probably wouldn't say anything. I'd probably just like, hi.
Nice to meet you. Okay.
I'm sorry. But yeah, no, I absolutely. And down to the point where it's that perfect balance of like, like a star quality, like a watchable quality, because he is so aesthetically pleasant. Like even as he's dying, I have to admit, they have this great shot that's like underneath his chin while he's laying on the floor and looking up at the kids, telling them Santa Claus is gone. And all I can think is like, it's so sad, and his lips are so full,
Oh, okay.
I mean, they defy gravity, those lips. It's remarkable. They just like, ooh, just up there. Like anybody who's watching this who hasn't seen the movie yet, check it out or give it another watch. Like, look at those lips. They deserve their own award. So yeah, I appreciate that. Oh, I have her name, Mrs. Randall, Nancy Borgenicht, who was in Halloween 4. That's her name. I just want to, Mr. Seals. That's her.
One of my favorite parts of the movie.
Yes.
It's they're all gonna laugh at you for me. I like hearing it. I don't know how much else you've got on this, but I have one last thing to say before.
Okay.
And then I'll turn over to you. But just
sure.
My thing with Pamela is she seems nice, and then you're watching the Christmas party, and you're watching Guido McDoucheface, making all of his little and I'm kind of with
Andy. His name's Andy. Yeah.
I like Guido McDoucheface better.
Guido McDoucheface works fine.
But I'm like, oh, I thought they had a thing, but like he is throwing so much vibe, and she seems to be like reciprocating it, right? Mm-hmm. And then he's even talking about, so then they go into that back room, and that's why I get so confused. Not confused, but she clearly has no idea what the fuck he's talking about. I'm like, oh, you're a moron. Yeah. I didn't know you were a moron until this scene. But then when they're talking about like gifts, he's like, well, I got something I can give you, whatever. And I'm like, you really don't know what he's saying right now? You really don't understand? You don't see any, you're in the back. Oh my God, you're an idiot. Oh my God. And I just get very upset for her. Like how little men has she been exposed to not know what is happening, what she's walking into with this fucking guy. And
well, maybe she's like Sister Margaret, and just kind of like, well, I'm afraid to, it's a colleague. Yeah, so
I never get the impression that she's afraid to speak up for fear of what Guido McDoucheface will do to her. I just think it's more like,
I think she doesn't know. She really genuinely doesn't know what's coming. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I can accept him being an innocent, but for some reason, like, I'm like, you should be more protective of yourself. This guy is a threat. But I do find it amusing that he comes and kills Guido McDoucheface, and then her response is, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I'm not saying you should be thankful, because you just murdered a coworker, and maybe you could have just thrown him off me and punched him or something. But I do find it amusing that, like, I think it's in the third or the fourth one, he saves someone from getting like assaulted, and she's like, thank you. Oh, in the third one.
No, that's it's in the second one.
In the second one.
Yeah.
Like
with Ricky.
And we'll get into it, but like in the second one, like this guy was being a shit.
Yeah.
Groping and stuff that you weren't supposed to do, and he kills him, and she just goes like, thank you. And I'm like, Well, that's kind of the response I wanted from Pamela, but that's also kind of an unhealthy. I mean,
I mean,
I
have my
got
own
the response I
comment
wanted.
on
It
that.
turns out it wasn't really the response I wanted because that's a bit psychopathic too.
I
There are
didn't
two
mean.
extremes. I don't want you to be
Yeah,
upset at him
exactly.
for defending you and killing someone, and I don't want you to be thankful either. But it was just interesting.
I
That's
have
all I'll
two
say
notes
on
in.
Pamela.
Okay, I have two notes in reference to that. One is just why would Pamela ever pick Andy? Like, I mean, Billy's there. What the fuck are you doing? I just link arms with Billy and be like,
Right.
Billy, will you take me home? Because I feel safe with Billy. You know, I'm not going to go in the back room with this guy. That said, I don't want to shame her for like what's coming because he has no right to behave that way. And I mean, Guido McDoucheface. But um, but that said, it stuns me that like Billy could be standing there and you could even look at anybody else. So I'm angry at her for that reason. That said, I also wrote, why would she call Billy a bastard and start beating on him? I mean, she
Right.
literally calls him a bastard and then just starts throwing her own punches on him after he killed the coworker. I'd be like, she's just not that bright because aside from like the misjudgment to like go in the back with a shady guy, Guido McDoucheface, after you've seen somebody who you like and who you trust, who's much larger than you, kill a man who was just assaulting you. So you know this guy was overpowering you. This guy just killed that guy. That guy, what do you think he could do to you? Are you going to start throwing punches and calling him names and shit like that? I would probably be very quiet, very afraid,
Right. My
and
response would be
probably do my
terrified.
best to just get the fuck out of there. Like, what did she
Right. To
think
not
was
come
going to
after him.
happen? So
Yeah.
I think she's just a character with incredibly bad judgment overall, for all the reasons we list. But so there's that, and I don't have much. I just love. This is kind of the perfect line for me to kind of encapsulate this movie because it makes me laugh. It's also incredibly disturbing on a social and a psychological level. And it's when Billy has the little girl on his lap when he's in a Santa suit, and all the people are standing there watching him with big grins on their faces because, oh, he's so good with children. And he's telling the girl like,
Oh my God.
stop it. You're being naughty. And my favorite, this is the one that like makes me, it almost makes me cringe, but it also makes me laugh. This is the movie to me. I don't bring toys to naughty children. I punish them severely. And the little girl. That's the movie.
Yeah.
Because I can laugh at that line, but I can also go, dude, Billy, you're crossing the line, buddy. We got to get you out of here. Like, I'm scared for him. I'm scared of him. I'm scared for the little girl. And I just want everybody to be okay. That is this whole movie.
You're right, but that is the whole movie in that there are parts of it that I can laugh with. There are parts that I can laugh at, but there are also parts that I genuinely take seriously.
Yeah.
And it's a very unique blend of cheese, but genuine interest. There's not a whole lot of movies that I can really compare this to as far as tone and my investment in and what I get out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was having a conversation with another friend of mine who was talking about how like an ideal double feature for Christmas, for obvious reasons, would be like, say, Black Christmas 1974 and Silent Night, Deadly Night. And I was like, would it? Because I've never watched them back to back. So because I don't feel like totally they might have enough in common, but I feel like the theme of Christmas and the fact that they're maybe Silent Night, Deadly Night might be a bit of a palate cleanser after kind of like the weight of Black Christmas, even though that has a lot of humor to it too, but it's very different kind of humor. So I don't know, I just kind of found myself wondering like, I should give that a shot. But I definitely think I would lead with Black Christmas just because I have even more fun with Silent Night, Deadly Night. But I mean, some of the most effective things, I love the irony, because this is the thing. It even happens in the sequels of this franchise where they try to use kind of like that juxtaposition of like Christmas cheer against like something horrible happening. Black Christmas even did it. In our discussion, we addressed like the Christmas caroling versus the killing of like Margot Kidder and everything. With this, for me, I love the Nutcracker screaming. Like, you know, after he wipes out everybody in the toy store and you just see all these Nutcrackers just, you know, and so simple, and almost obvious, but oh my gosh, but is it ever effective? It's one of my favorite things, even more than like the moving smiling Santa and all that. The nutcrackers, they give me it because maybe it's nutcrackers in the dark that I find creepy, I don't know, but I love that. And
I've
also
never liked nutcrackers. I think they're weird and creepy. I don't like their faces.
Really?
Yeah. It's the eyes and the teeth. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, they just sit there like and everything. That's why they usually have like oversized ones in like, you know, nutcracker ballets and things like that, and that's why I don't go. I know people are scared of like the moving toys and shit, but I'm just like, no, there's going to inevitably be a giant nutcracker head at some point. I'm just not about it. Small things like I really adore. Oh, this, I mean, because this is also encapsulates the movie in a great way too. His exchange with the little girl after he kills off Linnea Quigley and Leo Geter, when he gives her, when he asks her, "Have you been?" Well, also that whole exchange, because it is kind of, I mean, I smile when I watch it. I'm like, oh dear God. Like, but I am uncomfortable because I don't know, something about watching Billy interact with little girls just bothers me. Because the little girls, because the first one, the on his lap, knows to be scared of him. This one
doesn't.
Hey, Santa, you know, it's just Santa Claus, even though he's got like kind of blood in his beard and he's obviously off his rocker, but the fact that he asks her, like, I mean, have you really been good? And she's like, oh, yes, and everything. And then he's just like, well, I have a gift for you. And he gives her the box cutter, the bloody box cutter. And I love it because it's still real enough, but also funny enough because she takes it and she doesn't quite, she's still smiling, but she doesn't get it. Like, I'm not supposed to handle sharp things. Why is Santa giving me this? I just love the something terribly authentic, almost plausible about that moment. That feels very real to me. So I appreciate that. And I talk about like never really kind of checking out of this movie. The only time I even kind of like get close is, this is the one real criticism I have. It's just the cop at the orphanage when he's going through into like, you know, that it looks like an outhouse, but I guess it's like a storage unit with the steps leading down and everything. It's a little devoid of tension because like all of a sudden I'm just I'm not rooting for him to successfully protect the Mother Superior. Right. And both of them have already fucked up royally, but luckily and I think I imagined it as much longer than it felt the last time I watched it. Last time I watched it, I was like, oh, it's only like 60 seconds, 90 seconds, something like that. It's not like drone, you know, like it's not a slog to get through. It's actually, it's a nice little kind of like, okay, I can, you know, do whatever. But and it's over. So it's over pretty quick. So I don't mind it all that much. Also, we get the strawberry syrup dripping off of the axe in the snow, which I really appreciate. But the thing that, one of the final things that really gets me about the fucking Mother Superior is she wants to get the kids to forget that they just watched a man get shot in the back. A man who they loved, a deaf man, a man of God. Right. So what are they going to do? They're going to sing some Christmas carols. She even says, I wrote down the line, it's laughable. Imagine somebody telling you this when you're a kid after you've just witnessed a murder minutes before. Let's sing Christmas carols to forget. Oh, you know what? I didn't write down the actual line. I wrote down the line she should have said. Let's sing Christmas carols to forget the manslaughter of our dear departed Father O'Brien. And the fact that like, even when the little boy Andrew goes to get the door and she's like, no, Andrew, stop. We need altos. What kind of she just kind of makes up decisions about like what she needs and what needs to happen, like everything about like from getting Billy to sit on Santa's lap and why that's so important. I didn't understand it the first time. Yeah. I still don't know. I'm like, you're just a control freak and a sadist.
No, it's time to get over this, Billy. You're going to confront it and you're going to sit on his lap. This is how you deal with it. Yeah.
This is how you heal. But I don't think she's even concerned about him healing. I think she's just a fucking, I could say a lot more about her, but why? Last thing I'll say, just it's back to the beginning. One thing that it's when I knew I loved this movie with little Billy.
Okay.
Little Billy.
Yeah.
After Grandpa traumatizes him, and she's like, "Do you think Dad really could have talked to him or whatever?" And he's like, he said he's gonna kill me, or whatever he says. And then she just says, Grandpa's nothing but a crazy old fool. And then Billy does his little, Mommy, you shouldn't have said that. It's naughty to say bad things about old people. Santa Claus will punish you. His voice is almost like he's breathing through a kazoo. It's that pristine, childlike voice.
I watched that scene this time, and I immediately imagined you, like, delighting.
That's what I knew. That I think I must have had a loud audible reaction the first time we watched it. And
Maybe
I still do every time. I'm still like, there it is. There's
yeah.
I had the question going into this screening going, why do I love this movie? Well, for moments like this. So yeah, ultimately fucking awesome. I'd recommend it to everyone with a disclaimer for some people, but
yeah,
it's yeah.
And the disclaimer is, justified. My only real, not my problem with 2, but my problem with the franchise going forward is that, like, hey, we're gonna flash back to the mom getting assaulted again, and then I think
like we didn't.
And then in the third movie, she's psychic and she's going into Billy's brain, and we get to see the mom get assaulted again. I don't need to keep seeing her getting assaulted. Thank you.
I mean, we already got so many flashbacks of it in the first movie.
Right?
Like I was over it after the first movie. I was over it the first time it happened, and then we kept getting flashbacks, and I was like, "Oh, thank you, movie." But ironically,
but still,
just going like, "No, I don't ever need to see that again. Thank you very much. Didn't need to see it the first time, but still, because the movie isn't comprised of it, I can still get around it. But then I didn't know that I had sequels coming. Where it was just going to keep being recycled for me by characters who have no business remembering that.
Right. So even though I think 1 works on its own, I can still recommend 2 to people who enjoy, if you want to have a good laugh, because there is definitely I'm not going to say the first movie is rich in pathos, but like I said, Billy gives a good performance, and we're kind of rooting for things and stuff. Ricky, growing up, on the other hand, doesn't give you a lot of depth to chew on. The movie is definitely something more that you enjoy and laugh at and laugh with, and not a true emotional journey. There's not anything to really be scared of. But good Lord.
What a trip.
What a performance.
Oh, for the ages.
For the ages. The hardest working eyebrows I've ever seen in a performance. They are
somebody edited together.
Moving with every
I can't
sentence.
even do it. I can't even do it.
I can't
even do it justice.
It is both a terrible performance and also a brilliant performance, because it's a special skill to be that, I don't want to say bad, but to be that two-dimensionally unhinged. But it's fascinating. I'm just going to lean right in here. And one of my personal codas that I gave myself when we started doing these discussions is that I generally don't want to talk about bad movies, and I don't want to lean into a lot of negative talk. And that's fine if you can, God bless you. But for me, I don't want to spend too much time and energy focusing on bad things. But in the case of Ricky in this movie, it's a special kind of bad, but I am labeling it as bad. And I am going to sound a little critical and negative here. And I don't want to be, but it's also it's reaching a certain level that it transcends the negativity, which is that I remember being 14 and 15 and taking acting classes and stuff, and still being concerned with the way the lines sounded. And you hadn't learned to ignore the fact that, like, I want my lines to sound cool, and here's where this is going to sound like. And you have to you have to find the truth of the text. You have to bring honest emotion and truth, and not think about how you're sounding. This is like child acting 101.
Yeah.
I remember getting notes about, like, John Carlos, you need to stop making those faces. You need to stop playing with your eyebrows. You're like, I can see you making choices with your eyebrows, Right. And this is a grown man who is still acting the way I see, like, 13, 14-year-olds. And
even younger, maybe.
Even younger.
Maybe grade school, yeah.
And we're like, this is my idea of what an indignant, angry man who's better and everything has to have like an impact. Oh yeah, and every like, without getting too into, like there's certain choice, there's certain actors that I watch where the whole point is that as an actor you're making a choice, but the trick is to get to the truth of it so that I don't see you making the choice. And every once in a while you will see well-known actors giving quote unquote good performances, but I'm like, but I can see the choice being made. I don't like that.
Yeah.
This is just 200% choices. Everything is a choice. Nothing is rooted in truth. It's all inflection. It's all facial expression. It's all choices. But that commitment to it makes it in its own way a brilliant performance of something for me to enjoy and relish. But it doesn't do the text any favors, because
One thing
there's
I can
no truth to anything he's saying at all.
Okay.
There's one moment where I went, oh, and that's when they're in the movie theater and they're fucking watching Silent Night, Deadly Night. And he's like, what's this movie about? She's like, oh, it's about like a Santa Claus killer who goes around, and he goes, what?
I love that delivery too.
But it's the purest, not calculated to sound like I'm a kid's idea of what an indignant tough guy is. Like,
it's adorable. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but he has other little moments, like when he's like walking down the street with Jennifer, like holding her hand right before everything goes to pot. But and he's just talking about how he wants to, like, I don't even remember what he says, but he's just like, yeah, just, I'd like to take you there on my motorcycle. Would you like to go with me? I think it'd be kind of romantic and everything. I'm just like, aw. So, I mean, he has little moments, like almost accidental moments where he falls into a semi-authentic performance where he's probably improvising. He's probably not delivering, written dialogue at that moment either. But this is what I'll say. And this is not a defense so much as just like, I will say to his credit, he was hired to do what he did. Like, I know that he was up against another actor who was much darker in his interpretation. They actually were auditioning like side by side. You and I know what that's like. And it can be nerve-wracking. Yeah. And the other guy went first, and he was like really, really dark and really kind of like maybe more, I guess the word authentic, and just kind of more, and just more skill, like he had a lot more experience than Eric Freeman. And Eric Freeman, who was still kind of like trying to make it, but was also, it's wonderful to hear him talk about it, because even he will admit that he seemed to care more about his physique in this movie, and his dedication all kind of went there more so than the actual performance. It's not that he threw the performance away. He did invest in it. And I think that's why it works. It's because, he wasn't that experienced. He wasn't necessarily gifted in the traditional sense of what we mean when we talk about a gifted actor. But he definitely had something singular and all his own. And that's what they recognized in the audition room. And they were like, this other guy is really, really good. He's got a lot of experience under his belt. He would be a fascinating, but there's something about Eric Freeman that we're never going to be able to capture again in our lives.
And they're
so
right.
Watchable. So they put him in there. Yeah.
I won't deny this. All right.
Yeah.
The guy's got bravado for days.
Yeah. Swagger.
I mean, there's no denying. I do find it interesting that the idea that Billy, even as a killer, is kind of so innocent as a character. He's kind of tragic based on the things that made him who he is. Whereas Ricky, he has his own traumas, but he turns into this hostile fucking douche.
Yeah.
But that level of bravado does make for a very entertaining form of hostility. Mm-hmm. And it's incredibly watchable. Which is why it's not necessarily quote unquote good acting, but it is a great performance.
I remember things were looking up when the first shots we see in the film are this orderly, just kind of giving him the yeah. But everything, even that orderly is like that.
Yeah.
but everything that precedes that, because he does that when he like shouts or something and then comes in and whatever.
Yeah.
But like when he's just setting up and just plugging things in and just giving him the eye, and then he's just, you know, smug, and swagger is the word I think of all the time to describe him, but he hasn't spoken a word yet. And I was like, okay, this could be fun. And I knew I was going to enjoy myself when he said his first line. It was just like, fuck off, Doc.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, okay, this is something special. Because
it is
that's
something
the thing.
special.
Yeah.
I said bad, but it's not just bad. It's also great. It's a weird.
Yeah. Like The Room, Tommy Wiseau level earnestness. There is earnestness in it, but it's almost like when passion meets inexperience and to be kind, let's say untried talent, untapped talent. Like we haven't quite hit the geyser yet, you know. So he's still indicating largely, but sometimes sometimes people's worst habits are what make them so watchable. And it's a Guffman level performance. Yeah.
And it's so unguided, but like there are moments, because the problem is, since this character's so hostile, because you keep, that's my word is bravado and hostile, but there's sometimes where the choices are the wrong choice, and I feel like I wish someone had spoken up. And they're only these little moments, but I love them. But this idea that so much of what he's saying is like defensive, oh yeah, kind of hostility, oh yeah, that it almost sounds, when it's so indignant and sarcastic towards someone, on the lines where you're supposed to be indignant and sarcastic, it works. But at one point, he's asking like, how did you meet your wife? And the doctor's like, well, you know, we met in college. He goes, oh, my old lady couldn't afford to send me to college. I had to get a job. And I'm like,
yeah, that's one of my favorites.
It's one of my favorite lines. But if I was a director and a producer on set, I'd be like, did he not get a job? Because the way he's saying it is so sarcastic. It sounds like you don't mean what you're saying, that you didn't get a job. It's like, no, I got a job. Oh, then why are you saying it so 200%? I had to get a job. So did you or didn't you? I'm very confused by your reading right now.
See, I never took it as sarcasm so much as like I'm pushing it in your face, because he really does.
I don't think he meant it to be sarcastic, though. I don't think he meant it to be sarcastic, but it came out.
No, but
such a delivery that I'm like, huh? What is the choice here?
I also think, again, and it's I maybe this sounds like I'm defending him, and maybe I am, but I don't feel like I am. I feel like I'm just trying to create like perspective, because this is all things that I'm like, okay, but that makes sense. Like this entire movie, and I do mean how it's 88 minutes long. What's 88 minus 40? 48 minutes of this movie were shot in 10 days. Yes. Which makes me think probably not a lot of time to spend watching dailies. He probably didn't get to sit there after the first day of shooting and watch his performance and go, oh, is that what I'm doing?
Right. You know? If anything, if we had that time, we wouldn't have I had to get a job.
Yeah.
And
also, for a young actor who's still trying to break into the business, and who's really focusing on like doing like, you know, as many different little, he had his regiment of like exercises that he would do whenever they weren't shooting. He'd go off into the corner and lift his weights and things like that, because, you know, he knew he needed to look good in his clothes, and he was really concerned about that, and good for him, it worked. But the thing is, I know that he wanted to take, probably off the cue from the other guy he was auditioning with, he wanted to take a more dark route, a more introspective route, as much as he was capable of. So you've got that kind of impulse that he's trying to satisfy. I can't remember which was which, but the director and the screenwriter were both giving him completely conflicting directions also. One of them told him, I think it was the screenwriter, wanted him to be the director, sorry, I can't remember the screenwriter right now. I know the director wanted him to be wisecracking, you know, just kind of like whatever, almost Freddy Krueger like. And so he took that to heart. And then the screenwriter said he wanted him to be more what was that? I just had it in my head, I don't remember, but something completely different. So he had like No, it wasn't even because that
Right.
sounds more like him. It was something else. I can't remember. But anyway, whatever it was, he was kind of like being pulled in three separate directions from like day to day. So what you're seeing is this weird hodgepodge of a performance that, you know, it's almost like a Frankenstein monster of parts, and it isn't uniform, because sometimes he is a little bit more authentic and soft, and sometimes he is, you know, like very, you know, garbage day, and you know, whatever. But because there's another one that I love. Yeah,
it's a line reading that will live in infamy.
yeah, thank God.
I,
But I
I
mean,
was
there's other
aware of
ones that
that
I love
line.
that, like, yes,
I was aware of that
yeah,
line before I even saw the movie. I was aware of it through like horror pop culture, and you know.
right,
But what I wasn't prepared
yeah.
for the first time I saw it was how brilliant the rest of the scene is around before and after that.
Oh God.
Just this unhinged man. This man literally just walking on, just smugly just laughing at everything. Just like, you know what? Murder.
I'm evil now.
And just like walking by himself and just being
Yeah.
amused by himself and the whole situation.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. And it's
and you know what made me think of?
what?
It made me think of, and again, I have no evidence to back this up, but I
Yeah.
couldn't help but wonder if Tommy Lee Jones had seen this movie prior to Batman Forever and went, "That's what I'm gonna do." Because the one thing I can't stand about his Two-Face is how he's just like, yeah, yeah, just like, I don't have a line right now. Can I just laugh? And that's pretty much what Ricky is doing for that whole scene. I wonder if Tommy Lee Jones is like, "Oh, I like that." Can I just
sometimes,
yeah.
Sometimes quote unquote legitimate actors are almost too legitimate, you know, whatever that means.
Sure.
To access that part of them. Like I remember, what was the I can't remember the name of the shows. My memory is completely gone. If it's not written down, I'll forget it. But no, there were two versions of this show, like a miniseries, that Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig did for, I think it was Lifetime.
Oh
And it
God,
was
I
like
remember what it was called. It was like a melodrama soap opera.
Yeah, and there was two of them. There were two of them, and I watched both. And
yeah, one was like they find the oil, and like Tobey Maguire was in it. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah. And I gotta say, when they brought in the funny people, for the most part, that was great, because just because you're, you know, a comedian or a comedic actor or whatever, I mean, you usually have a lot of access to your darker shit or to even more serious shit. And you just also have a flair for, you know, making people laugh without even maybe knowing it. And so like people like Kristen Wiig and Will Ferrell did really well. Maya Rudolph was fucking hilarious. And if I remember correctly, so was, again, the name, the Sixth Sense kid. I see dead people. Yeah.
Haley Joel Osment.
Haley Joel Osment.
Who had gone on to do a lot of comedy after that, but I remember that was the first time I saw him in something funny.
And I was like, look at you. You're like committing, but you also know you're playing like a broad caricature. Good for you, because you're walking both lines really, really well.
The Spoils of Babylon.
Both. The Spoils of Babylon, and there was another one, The Spoils of something else too.
Yeah.
And but I remember sometimes it was a chore to watch, because then you, like, Tobey Maguire was an example. Sorry, Tobey Maguire. He's not watching, but it was like, I remember he was too committed, and he didn't know how to. It seemed like, and I don't know. I've seen him be funny, but he was almost too committed, and then too frivolous for the jokes to kind of count and feel like they were something the character would do. It was like all over the place. So I was like, okay, cool. So it does require like a specific person. I think that's why I want Eric Freeman to kind of get his due, because he is doing something that it's not easy to do and commit to and achieve with the kind of to achieve a consistent kind of inconsistency like he does. Like it's and for it to be watchable and not just like, what is this shit? There's plenty of examples of that later.
Watchable. It is delightful. The Spoils Before Dying.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah.
Spoils of Babylon and Spoils Before Dying. But I mean, and they were fine.
Yeah. Now, moving on from just him and getting more to some of just the logistics of it, I remember thinking, like, How are some of these flashbacks applicable to you? Oh, well, it turns out my brother Billy told me. Sure. But at one point, the doctor asks, and he goes, oh, I was there. I remember. And I'm like, no, you're a baby in the backseat of a car.
Yeah.
You can't set up that you know this because Billy told you and then contradict that completely by saying, well, I was there. Because your little baby brain really wasn't there. It just made me laugh. That I remember moment cracks me the fuck up.
There's
also,
even a moment, well, because just on to piggyback on that, there is a moment also where he's flashing back, like reaching out. Little boy Billy in the movie is reaching out for Father O'Brien before he gets shot to shit and everything.
Oh, I love that
and then
part.
Father O'Brien falls over. But Ricky, in present day, is reaching out going, Billy. And I'm like, Ricky in the movie, as far as we know,
was not
didn't know that Billy. First of all, it's not Billy. Secondly,
Correct.
He couldn't have thought it was Billy because he didn't know Billy was dressed up as Santa Claus,
right,
going around killing people, or even dressed up as Santa, period.
It's a case of the fact that we, the audience in that first movie, were led to believe that it was Billy. So therefore, they're playing to us. They're not playing to him, and that's
Yeah,
it's a
but
mistake.
it makes absolutely
no
sense.
sense.
Just kind of like, but that's a movie shot in 10 days, or footage. I mean, the whole movie was not shot in 10 days.
Yeah. Speaking of footage, and I meant to go back and check this. So maybe if, one of the 5 people watching this, if you want to comment and let me know, I couldn't help but notice when there's 2 moments that they flash back to. One was when Billy is watching the teens fuck.
Yes.
I could have sworn it was completely different teens in part 2. I'm like, okay, so I'm not nuts. I'm like, these are okay. I don't know what the fuck. Aside from the producers going, well, let's get some new titties in this. We already had the other tits. We should get new tits because tits.
I'm assuming it's a rights issue because I know that they had approached Linnea Quigley and the other people who were in the flashbacks.
This is a Crispin Glover Back to the Future too.
Right. So to get them residuals and stuff like that for the footage from the first movie being used because there was so much of it. And maybe they just didn't want to pay, those kids because they were just background. Technically, they were just background.
We can get a new ass and tits, some new guy's ass for way cheaper than this.
And this is probably the meanest thing I'll say about this movie, but no, just because the first thing, because I knew from the beginning that they were 2 different people because in the second movie, they start off on a close-up of that guy's back.
Yeah.
All I'm going to say, covered in moles. His back.
You're so shallow.
I was just like, okay, all this guy has to do is show off his back and turn around. You couldn't find a guy with a nicer back. It's in close up.
Eddie,
we can see
cinema. They're going for realism. Real people have moles.
But it also makes I know, right. But I mean covered.
I just remember honestly, it wasn't I didn't watch it and go, those tits are different. But I remember when you see their heads, I was like, wait a minute.
Yes.
I just watched part 1 2 days ago and I don't remember your fucking faces.
Because the original couple also had fairer hair, both of them. And then they're really, really dark brunette hair.
Well, I've never watched 1 and 2 this close together before. So.
Oh, I have. It's a mistake.
I've never. Yeah. So my eyes also, and you can tell me if I'm right on this. When they do flash back to Billy dying, it's a cut, and it's a different little boy Ricky, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Because that little boy is the same one they use in the Ricky going with the adopted parents and everything like that.
I'm like, wait a minute.
I love OG Ricky's body.
Yeah.
And new Ricky's fine, but the OG Ricky,
it's more overt. It's less subtle.
Well, he says it in the same voice as Robert Brian Wilson, which I fucking love.
Yeah, no, it's funny. It's just a little more on the nose, but I prefer the original. Speaking of different Rickies, I shat myself giggling. Not literally, everybody, but I had a giggle fit when we cut to him, the version of Ricky that runs over the guy in the car.
Oh, yeah. The teenage Ricky.
Yeah, and he goes 5 years later, the dad died. And I went, 5 years? Looks like he's 20 years later. Who are you kidding me? 5 years. There's a 25-year-old playing Ricky.
He was 24, playing 15.
There you go. I'm like, that's a 25-year-old man right there.
He was, and he felt kind of silly about that.
I bet. It just made me laugh.
That also brings up that sequence you were talking about, which I remember feeling like, well, at least somebody recognizes that she was with a shit. I mean, we still have like men writing women as like incredibly passive. It's almost more insulting in the second movie because this guy kind of like forces himself on her during a picnic. They're obviously in a kind of relationship with each other. It's probably very early, but she knows him well enough to know that he's always trying to get on top of her. He's always grabbing at her. And she even said, but then she says the line something like, and it's a lot of fun. It's really funny, like when we're in front of your friends, but not right now. And I'm like, what?
I thought like first of all, neither sounds great, but like I feel like the opposite, right? Like,
if anything, but probably both.
Both, but
don't do this in front of other people.
Like, yeah.
But then like he kind of, I don't know exactly. I mean, he tears her shirt open. And that's about it. They were going to have more. It was going to echo the original even more. But she apparently on the day of shooting, like the actress decided, like, I'm really uncomfortable with this. I know I said I'd do it, but you figure something else out because I'm not doing it. And they were like, fuck, we're losing light.
Let's just cut to more footage of the mom getting assaulted.
Yes. We'll just have him push you down and mime like tearing her shirt. I think it does cut immediately to the shot of the mom having her shirt actually torn open and everything. So I hope she made bank off of it. I mean, she probably didn't. You know, residuals are like, you know, a few cents here, a few cents there. But one thing that it confused me further is then he gets up. He's just like, I don't even remember what he's going to do. I think he's going to go get more beer from the van or whatever, from the Jeep. And he gets up, and she calls him an asshole or something, and he's just kind of like, yeah, well, and he just goes off to the Jeep. And she closes her shirt and kind of holds herself. And she doesn't even try to walk away. She just kind of sits there on the blanket, just, you know,
yeah,
like one of those.
The aftermath of that is incredibly awkward.
Yeah. But then, of course, little Ricky, well, not little Ricky, little big Ricky, tries to runs him over and then backs over him and then runs him over and backs over him.
Yep.
And the thing that actually threw me the most about that scene, I think, was the fact that after it's all over, like she can see the whole thing. He gets out of the car, she walks over, they have the Jeep between them, and she's just like, thank you. and he's just like, and then he goes in his direction and she goes in hers. It always occurred to me, I'm like, why doesn't she just get in the fucking Jeep? She's gonna have a long walk through the woods trying to, you know, reach whatever.
Even though he did her solid, he's still a killer.
Yeah.
Would you want to get in the Jeep with him, Eddie?
No, because he's not in the Jeep. He walks away.
Oh, that's true.
They both walk in opposite directions.
That's right. I forget he
got in the Jeep and gotten away quicker, but she's just kind of closes her shirt and walks. She's gonna hitchhike.
Her fingerprints would be in the Jeep. When they find the body and they find her fingerprints on the steering wheel. I
would argue that she could have probably driven. She probably could have even told them that she drove them to the site if she wanted to. But I mean, that guy's so alpha, maybe he wouldn't let her drive his Jeep. Yeah. I don't know. Toxically alpha.
Speaking of cars,
yes.
Little moment, but when Ricky's having his escapades.
Yeah.
A car, and then he shoots what appears to be maybe the radiator, if it even cracks through the grill. And then it just does that thing where it hits a thing and does the ramp flip.
Yeah.
And it lands, and I believe it lands on its tires. And then it's probably one of my favorite cinematic explosions for no reasons, where the car just goes.
Yeah. Yes.
I love me an explosion for no reason, and that's probably the most unnecessary car explosion I've seen in a movie, and it's a gas.
I associate them with my brother-in-law because every time that happens in a movie, I just hear him in my head now because I've heard him say it. Sometimes they're like, "That would never happen." He gets so angry. But I mean, like in a fun way, you know, like he
Oh
doesn't
yeah.
ruin the party or anything. But
Yeah, side note, I mean
oh,
that's one of the reasons why I love John Wick 1 so much, because John Wick has become a bigger spectacle of a franchise. But that
yes,
first movie, when that car falls off that little docking thing, it just goes thud, and I'm like, well, that's what would happen. And your average movie
yeah,
would go kaboom, and I love,
yeah,
yeah. And this movie is the complete opposite.
yeah. Um, Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, again, just in reference to the flashbacks themselves, like the reused footage. I think I think I used to feel tediousness. Now I know to kind of space them out if I'm going to watch them, even in the same season. Like here, I watched them about maybe a week and a half apart, divided by the sequels, which helped because I already knew what was coming. So it was just kind of
Right.
like, oh, cool. I'm really looking forward to seeing part 2 now, and even seeing part 1 again. I'll do it. But the thing is, as I was sitting there, I was just like, I don't think it even bothered. I think the tedium used to bother me of just like kind of revisiting the same footage. The thing that bothers me now is because I see what they made in part 2, like with the footage that they actually shot, and oh my god, how wonderful would it have been if we got 40 minutes, like if at the top of the 40 minutes, at the top of the whole movie, we have this psychiatrist sitting there just kind of going down like, okay, like I don't know, and there's Ricky going, I don't know where we left off, you'll have to remind me. And every line is like that too. It's almost like a bobblehead, just kind of like, I don't know, doctor, what do you think? It's always with this kind of cadence.
Bubble eyebrows too.
Yeah, and I can't do the eyebrows for
I can't
shit,
either.
so
It's a Belushi level performance of eyebrows.
yeah, they have a mind of their own. But I just couldn't help thinking, like, what if they just kind of regrouped, just said, well, you told me that your father that your father and your mother were killed and he just kind of like few lines just to give us the thing, and then
in
say
a
like,
minute.
yeah, and you told, last thing you told me was that you watched your brother die. And you're like, yeah. What does that mean? Like whatever. But then we could have like gone more into his what it was like to be with his adoptive parents, the
Yes.
Rosenbergs, and we could have seen, maybe even, I would have lived for this, new ways to manifest his trauma, or the fact that he wasn't quite right, like the way we did with young Billy. Like, to see, maybe we could see him in school, maybe we could see him being a little destructive, or bringing, I mean, again, going maybe the Rob Zombie Halloween way, where he's like bringing dead animals home, and where he's, maybe he killed his adoptive father, maybe, like, I mean, there's so many opportunities that I feel like they missed to really give us Ricky and let us get to know him, and to maybe even with this new kind of still earnest but tongue-in-cheek earnestness, just to kind of plant the seed for like why he's so bitter, to like give him a reason to really be justifiably that angry with his memories, things that he actually remembers. I mean, he even remembered that scene that Billy wasn't even there for, where the dad crawled through the window into his daughter's room,
Right.
and the cops bust in on him.
That was like the dog flashback from Hills Have Eyes Part 2. Like, why is this a thing?
And not enough like the chimpanzee flashback in Being John Malkovich, which rocks.
Which is great. Hey, the dog flashback in Hills Have Eyes Part 2 rocks also. It's probably the funniest part of the movie. But yeah.
But this one, I just felt like, oh my gosh, because I mean, so much of what they made, I really did appreciate, in its own, for its own merits.
Yes.
Yeah, so it would have been nice if we could have just gotten more of that. It would have been a near perfect film if they could have just expanded on what they were already making, if they would have taken that opportunity.
Had they had more money. Yeah, right. Because I mean, I know it was, we have this much money, so I don't know, right? 60 pages and do 40 minutes of flashback.
Okay, and I have a question. Every time I watch this, do I absolutely miss the reason Mother Superior is deformed now?
No, you don't. And that's one of my notes. They say Mother Superior lives over here now because she had a stroke.
Right.
And then we cut to her, and she looks like half of the Toxic Avenger.
Yes.
She looks like the fucking guy in RoboCop who gets the fucking acid thrown on him. And I just went, That's not what happens when you have a stroke.
No, she looks like Jason Voorhees. Yeah.
I think she looks like a little Toxie.
Yeah. No, totally. Maybe
No.
Jason Voorhees and Jason Goes to Hell. Like maybe that's
Oh,
what she
yeah.
looks like. Yeah. All bubbly and shit. Like,
Yeah,
oh my
if
God.
they'd explained, well, she had a stroke and then she, like Aaron Eckhart's Two-Face, she fell in some fire or something. But like,
that was actually something else that I thought of. I was like, what? I mean, I understand it's a different actress, and we already showed clips of the real Mother Superior.
They should have shown a flashback of her getting burned.
That's what I'm saying. That would have been an incredible thing to see. Little Ricky, like what if, like really, young Ricky from the end of the night. What if he got so enraged that like one night he just like threw acid on her face or something, anything to just like deform her. And then he had to be moved to a kinder, gentler orphanage. That's why he thought he was getting better. Then he got adopted by the Rosenbergs, who made him think he was going to. I mean, there is so much opportunity. It almost writes itself. If it can occur to me while I'm just fucking watching it, going like, well, why didn't you just? It really was like a shame that they didn't have a larger budget and more time. But because that would have been great. Because then we really could have watched her suffer first.
Right.
You don't even have to see an actress. Like just see a shape. Just watch him pour something, and then you could have like covered her whole face. Like maybe she could just be like Freddy Krueger, just burn victim, and and just like, and I would have loved that. Just make a mask that looks like the Mother Superior from the first movie,
right.
full mask, like where she just disappears.
It's
and she can't even talk anymore. Yeah,
it's such a choice, and again, it feels like there's a deleted scene. There was a deleted young Billy scene. However, there's a lot of movies that I've gone down, the Wikipedia and IMDb trivia and articles and interviews rabbit hole. I haven't done that for 2, and I've always meant to. And I've never seen, I don't have the Scream Factory edition, so I don't know what making ofs are on it. But I'd be curious to see if they're like, no, we filmed there's a scene with little Billy burning her and we cut it. And I go, oh, well, that explains that,
I have the Blu-ray and I haven't covered all of it because, I mean, they have a documentary that's like an hour and like, I think 25 minutes or something like that.
Which is longer than the new footage in the movie.
Yeah. Good point. And I'm sitting there and they even talk to, I can't remember his name right now. I can't remember shit. Sorry, folks. But the man who did the special effects on it. And he's talking about it. And he's just like, yeah, they asked me to do this, like kind of acid burn face for her. So we put that prosthetic together. That is all the mention that I've seen so far. I have to listen. I think there's a commentary. I got to listen to it, see if they mention it there. But I still have yet to hear an explanation. I have a feeling it just kind of was like, well, she had a stroke.
While she was at the gas station.
We need to make her look different. Yeah, let's make her look different. And nobody's going to care.
Well, shit, I fucking care.
Yeah, no, I fucking care too. I really could have used, particularly, we spent the whole first movie building up such a hatred in me for her. It would have been nice to see her suffer before she died, even more.
But that is one of the things I like about 2, is getting that comeuppance is very satisfying. Even though it's not the same actress, I don't have the same attachment. I still have some sense of closure with that, so that's nice.
Yeah, it's something.
The only other thoughts I have on this, and they're minor, they just amuse me, little amusements. The scene in the movie theater goes on way too fucking long. That ex-boyfriend that shows up.
Chip.
Like, how many, like, too many pages were written for this scene. And the fact that they filmed them all and didn't trim this, it goes on way too fucking long. And so much so that we realize, like, when Ricky is annoyed by the guys behind him, he gets up, and then this scene with Chip's going on, I'm like, what is Ricky doing this whole fucking time? Like, where is this scene going?
I know.
But also, besides that Chip dialogue just going on way too fucking long, they do it twice this movie that cracks me up, where, like, those two douches, the guy talks and he looks over at his friend, and then he looks over at his friend. I don't believe for a second that he wouldn't notice that it's Ricky there.
Yeah. I like it.
No, it's funny, but the one that kills me is Ricky's been talking, and then there's a flashback, and then we cut back to, like, the doctor kind of, like, writing things down.
Oh, yeah.
And then Ricky does the, hey, blah, blah, like, right next to him. I'm like, you're in a little room. You can't lose Ricky in this room. This surprise doesn't work. How do you... Again, there's no blinders on this man, but somehow we get the surprise jump scare of Ricky.
Mm-hmm.
It's so bad, but it's probably one of my favorite moments in the movie, just because it's so hilarious.
Well,
it's so bad.
It's another one of those lines that doesn't get quoted often because I mean, I guess it's not quotable, but I just love his delivery. Yeah, no, going too fast for you, Doc, in full profile. Yeah. Like that's the going too fast for you, Doc. Red car. Good point. Back out, like out of the frame. And I was like, oh, I'm in heaven. I also really appreciate the umbrella in that kill with the loan shark in the alley. Holy crap. That's a gift from baby Jesus.
That kill has been done before with the umbrella opening it, but that's one of the better ones I've ever seen as far as its staging and how ridiculous it is.
Like I don't. Something about the way that it's edited too, like it almost seems plausible. And I love when I also know. I mean, almost because like he pushes the umbrella like with such force and such anger through the guy, and then just kind of like and take that. And then I love the fact that there's blood. There's not entrails, but there's blood.
There's
all
chunks
over the
all
open
over
umbrella. There are chunks. I didn't. Maybe I was.
I feel like
raining,
I saw chunks.
Okay, maybe. I just remember blood. It was good. It was good enough. Whatever it was, it worked for me. I appreciated it. But also just shout out to Jennifer, played by Elizabeth. I don't know if it's Kaitan or Chiton, but because she was Robin in Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. She was the girl who stole the stoner guy from the girl with the glasses, who told her, maybe you just need a little touch up. And then she, to defend herself, maybe a little touch up my ass. She's the bad friend. She's the horrible friend with the bangs. And I really liked her in this movie. I don't know, something, even just watching her watch the movie when they're sitting there. I don't know, I liked her. I didn't like a lot of the way she was written, like just before her demise, except for literally the moment before her demise. Because again, we get a case of like a woman defending a man who does not deserve it, who just got killed, and she literally says the line, "I hate you, Ricky." That was quick. Right after they were talking about having a romantic evening, and then he killed a guy who was bothering her. I'd feel a little grateful, but it's
one thing to defend a girl's honor. It's another thing to like electrocute a guy's head in the car engine. And
I've never had a guy defend my honor, so I'm thirsty for this kind of shit. So the fact that he killed Chip, I'm okay with. If I had a Chip in my life, first of all, I probably wouldn't need a Ricky to kill him.
Sure.
But if I had a Ricky and he did, I might be a little. It'd be, that'd be nice actually if they did a prequel to this with the grandpa and we actually had a girl kind of go once the assailant, because you got to have one now. It's a trend in the franchise, but you got to have like a girl just kind of like, don't say anything. I know a place, and we're gonna go bury him. Like in Death Valley,
right.
or in a swamp. We're gonna, I need someone to be like on board with it, or even a guy to be like, like with the grandpa. Maybe grandpa was with another guy, and I could use that.
Doesn't need to be heteronormative. In fact, I say
totally.
That's what makes the Silent Night, Deadly Night prequel an interesting prequel. We get a little more sexually inclusive.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Does it just need to be wieners and vaginas all the time? And that's coming from someone who likes wieners and vaginas all the time.
Right. But also, what I love about it is the second she does that, he's all punish, and you literally hear it on the Blu-ray. I don't know if you can hear it in streaming, but she literally gulps. She's like, uh-oh, and she runs in the opposite direction before he takes that aerial and that antenna and just like wraps it around her neck and everything, and crosses his eyes in the most splendid way as he chokes her from behind and she sinks down out of frame. He's just, I can't even I can't do what he does, but his eyes are like anger, and then we go on to the whole montage like
and that poor guy who was just taken out as trash.
Yeah. I mean, the little girl gets spared, and that makes me feel good. That feels like the first movie because, like, she said, "Excuse me," and he says whatever he says. He's just like, "That's all right." He just, she goes around him, and he just looks at her like, some kids are doing it right. Some people were raised in the old ways to respect their elders, but then the garbage day guy, what was he doing?
Exactly, and
he wasn't recycling,
and that. There's a thing that I never, I mean, it makes it funny, but in real life I don't like, and I don't like it in most other movies. I like it in this movie. When people make fun of something for a thing that's not making funnable, it's very much the wedding singer where he's like, "Hey, I got a song for you. I got a punch in the face, first in my nose, in other people's business." And like, you think it's wit, but it's not.
Yeah.
And just, because it's such a just condescending, making fun of garbage day as if, "You idiot, you're taking out the trash." Like, just what are you making? What? What's so fucking funny about me taking out the trash? Would be my response. If I
maybe it's just to punctuate how truly like off his nut he is.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
He's gone.
He's so gone.
In a way, Billy really wasn't. Like, I mean, Billy was more like
absolutely.
Dexter.
Is that it for you for 2?
Let me see if I have anything else that I wanted to say. Like, I have other things, but they're not like, demanding. I mean, no, I won't say that, but because some of these are just like, blah, 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 blah. I said the umbrella. No, I think that's the only other thing. It's just like you're mentioning Chip. I feel like that's kind of the it should make a top 5 list of douchey guy names.
Chip.
I can't imagine hearing anybody telling me, and then you can meet my new boyfriend, Chip, and me going, great. Yeah, I'd be like, okay.
Well,
Inside.
like what springs to mind, and I just watched it recently, but Chip Shrek in fucking Batman Returns isn't a peach.
No. And I even think about, I think the first one I thought about was in Friends, the when they're supposed to go to, what was it, the prom, I think, and Ross is supposed to take Rachel because she got stood up by Chip.
Yeah.
And then Chip grows up to be, a loser who still works at the movie theater.
Wasn't his alias Chip Douglas in Cable Guy? Like, and
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Chip's not a good. Don't call your kids Chip, folks.
Yeah, you can call your chipmunks Chip, but not people.
Yeah, chipmunks are cool, but don't call your son Chip. So yeah, that's that. I think that's it. That's the moral of the story: is don't be Chip.
Well, I only asked about whether because you were talking about Ricky and I was just thinking about like how different. I mean, granted, he's been shot at the end of 2. When we get to Ricky in 3,
yeah,
definitely not the same Ricky. If anything, I almost get like a weird like Frankenstein's monster vibe.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. 3.
Dear God.
I do find something interesting, and I'm going to say this now about 3 and 4 and 5, which is 1 and 2 clearly don't have anybody really famous in them. They are small, ambitious productions.
Yeah.
Whereas 3 and 4 and 5 have names in all of them. And yet, succeed far less, which is just a nice example. It's not about star power. It's about intentions and stuff. Because you got Bill Moseley as Ricky. What the fuck? That's crazy. Amazing. I mean, I'm not a hardcore enough fan to know his entire, resume off the top of my head, but I didn't know he was going to be in this. So that was a shock.
Yeah.
Richard, was it
Bamer? Yeah.
From fucking Twin Peaks and West Side Story?
Yeah.
What the fuck? I just remember watching the credits going, Robert Culp.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, gives the most like natural kind of like he's having fun as an actor. He's having fun as a character.
Yeah.
Robert Culp is having the most fun in this movie. I don't have a whole lot of opinion on this movie. I mean, let me rephrase it. I don't have a lot to say about this movie, the way we've gone down. I imagine our discussions for the next 3 or the next 4 probably won't go on as long.
Right.
I am fascinated by the cast they assembled for this movie. I am fascinated by the choice for Ricky to have an exposed brain and a glass dome with some red juice swirling around and the little Frankenstein thing, the seal around his head. But to have the rest of the movie played so straight. Because the two just don't. They don't.
Well, I guess it matters what you mean by straight, because I have some things to say, but it's not really anything, because this was my first time watching the movie.
Both of us, yeah.
And I had no intention of like taking notes for it. Actually, I was just kind of like, well, I'll just get my feet wet. Like, I don't even know if we'll talk about it. We had talked about maybe just covering the first 2 because those were the ones we'd seen. So I watched the third one, and immediately things kept happening, and I told myself, okay, well, I'll have to remember that. And then something else happened. I'm like, oh, okay, I got to remember that too. And I think I was 15 minutes in, and I was like, okay, I already have like 5 things I have to remember. I'm just going to start taking notes so I can just go down the list. And if you want to respond to anything, like, feel free.
Do it.
Okay. First one, you already brought up Richard Beymer and Bill Moseley. The first thing that shocked me was after her little nightmare, which felt very Candyman 3 to me. After she wakes up and the flashlight goes in her eyes with Richard Beymer, and she's going, and everything. And in the next breath, he asked her, what did you dream? And she says, I dreamed I could see. What?
Then how are you responding to the flashlight? Yes.
And why does it hurt? Like, what are you seeing then? If you're blind, maybe you'll see something, but it won't hurt. Like, I mean, that's what a
right.
sighted person would do. So I'm all right. I'm like, okay, definitely got to mention that. But that told me, okay. Felt like Candyman 3. She did that. I'm already starting to get a rough idea where I'm going. The next thing, I didn't understand I couldn't tell if she was supposed to like Dr. Newberry, Richard Beymer's character, or not, because in one breath he's telling her she's strong, and she's like, anything for you, Dr. Newberry. And then like in another breath she's telling him, he's asking her like, but you dreamed something, didn't you? She's like, no, I wish you would just leave it alone, and just acting all indignant and stuff like that. And I'm just kind of like, okay, this actress is all over the place. She's either not very good or has absolutely no direction coming at her, because for all I know, there are different takes and they just edited it that way. I don't know. But so I wasn't crazy about her. I also thought Dr. Newberry was the creepiest doctor ever, but Richard Beymer seemed to be just like, that was an example. I thought I brought it up here on this pod before, when Kevin Smith misuses the term chewing the scenery when somebody's being very, very broad with their choices. I felt like Richard Beymer was probably like a best case example of chewing the scenery. Like, he was having fun. I'd argue he wasn't connected, but I feel like he was having fun. You know, like, it was campy. There was a disconnect, but it worked. It made it more watchable. If I were watching somebody who was like actually dedicated to portraying this mad doctor, it would be less watchable because he's kind of gross. So there's that.
He is very gross in the movie, I will say that.
And he's like putting his hands all over her, like with the, I wonder if she's playing games with me. And stroking her hair, telling her, go to the dreams, Laura. And I was just like, ew. More flashbacks with the first movie, and I was just kind of like, really, we're not past this yet. It felt like I was going into kind of like a sci-fi channel of the 80s and 90s mode then, once we kind of like got into like the science of it. I was just kind of like, this is like what sci-fi movies used to be. So I felt like that. Also, Ricky dreaming about Billy's flashbacks was weird, because like it's one thing to tell the story because Billy told it to you, but when you're actually having his flashbacks, okay, where are we? Oh, okay, and this was a plus. This was one of my favorite lines that Richard Beymer delivered. When he was alone with his nurse or his associate, whatever. Her body may be young, but her soul is old, older than we can imagine. And she says, and she asks, "You think she'll come back?" And he says, "She's gone too far. She'll be back. And then she'll let me go as deep as I want. She likes it, loves it, knowledge. She can't resist it. She wants to penetrate his mind." And I'm like, okay, whoever wrote this is sick. But what I love is Richard Beymer is a smart actor, knows I have to tackle it like I'm talking about what I'm talking about. And and he absolutely does. I didn't understand the naughty. Yeah.
He's a bright spot in the movie for what he's given.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be a lot more of him as the movie progressed, but we just kind of focused on Laura. He kind of disappeared for a while.
Yes.
To the movie's detriment.
If anything, I thought with a person like Bill Moseley, we'd give him more, and they really don't give Bill Moseley much to work with.
Not at all.
And Richard Beymer gets a lot to chew on.
I was a lot more entertained with the first 2/3 of the movie than I was by the climax, I have to say, even though that's when we get the most Bill Moseley, but he was the strongest thing about it, because once he got to Grandma's house, that interaction, like, I mean, you talk about Frankenstein's monster, it felt like the old blind man letting the monster in and being kind to him, because Bill Moseley did a great job playing this kind of lost, I mean, he didn't say anything, but just the loss in his eyes.
You could, I was going to say, you could see it in his eyes.
Yeah. And just like, I don't know who I am. I don't know why I'm here. Please help me. But that confuses me too, because I have this impulse to kill you.
Right. And although I still, for the life of me, can't understand why the grandma would ever let him in. I mean, God bless her. When he comes to the door, fine, but the fact that she's got him at her dinner table, I'm like, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
What? There's a lot of this movie that, I mean, one of my notes was just ridiculous. Because there's a lot of this movie that's just ridiculous. But unfortunately, I found I was mostly in a weird way entertained until we got to like the last third. I started to just check out. I'm just like, all right, there's less for me to really chew on here. I'm just kind of at this point.
I could tell I was watching like a horror movie fan's script though, because there's one line that she says where, no, not that one. Here it is. I can't find it now. Anyway, who said you have to be, I don't even know who says it, but who said you have to be the world's champion blind orphan? Maybe it was her brother, who she had way too much chemistry with. The scenes between the brother and the sister were almost as erotic as the scenes between the brother and his lover. And the fact that they look so much alike bothered me.
I thought about that when they were in the bathtub together. And I imagine like did him and his sister ever take baths together as kids? And this is why he's in the bath with his girlfriend as an adult. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. They did not have a brother-sister vibe, because first of all, I'm a brother. I never get that close to my sister when she's kind of sitting there trying to figure things out at Granny's house and Granny's missing and they don't know. He sits like right next to her, like thigh to thigh, shoulder to shoulder, like within like I'm gonna kiss you distance, and gives her kissing eyes. She can't look back at him, but she is definitely like, things are happening. The thing about the camera, it captures shit, even when you don't intend it. That's why if you have a particular chemistry and the camera reads it, that's kind of what you hope for if you're casting lovers or brother-sister. But if you have two people who have kind of a romantic chemistry and you cast them as brother and sister, it can be really disappointing, especially if you sit them right up against each other. No, I didn't like any of it. I thought it was gross. But the "Who says you have to be the world's champion blind orphan" line reminded me of a line from Wait Until Dark that Audrey Hepburn's character says when she's still got her husband there and before the movie really takes off, where she's just like, "Do I have to be the world's champion blind lady?" And he's like, "Yes, you do."
Yeah, good pull.
And because it was, yeah, I was just like, oh, because I mean, it's so specific, you know.
Yes.
I'm just kind of like, okay, so somebody's a fan, and maybe that's why they made her blind, but it's not working because she's not Audrey Hepburn. Let me see. Oh, and also I didn't understand like the whole why there was antagonism between Jerry, the girlfriend, and Laura for like no reason. But Jerry asked one of the most insensitive things I've ever seen in a movie, which is like, "So Laura, how long have you been handicapped?" Oh, oops. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is just poor. I mean, nobody would do that on their worst day. Like, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I have to talk to somebody who's differently able than see. Has somebody ever been that stupid? But like,
they might be like,
somebody
actually,
who's dating your brother, but has somebody who's dating your brother who's trying to make a good impression, you know, would they do that?
I don't think she likes me. You think?
Oh, God.
I will say this. I have witnessed some
Yeah.
incredibly
Yeah.
insensitive, stupid questions like that in my life about, I've seen it. I've experienced it. So,
Okay. That's unfortunate. That sucks.
Yes. Yeah. So it
Wow.
wasn't that as far-fetched to me, although I agree with you.
Okay. I mean, it's definitely not interesting to watch. Like, I was just kind of like,
yeah.
Okay.
Look, going into this, I knew I actually I was really upset at myself. I just wanted to I wanted to look at like what year it was. So like I typed in into Google.
Yeah.
Found it in like 3. And I kind of read the log line of like a psychic girl. I'm like, I think it's hilarious usually when there's a psychic girl in a sequel. So hell yeah. But it said Ricky, whose brain is encased. And I went, I didn't want to know that. Sure enough, within the first minute, you find that out. So it wasn't like a third act reveal that was spoiled for me.
No, not at all.
But I went in, I forgot why I mentioned this.
We were talking about people crossing boundaries, and I don't remember either. You can't rely on my memory tonight. I'm sorry.
All I know is I went in knowing a little bit. And,
yes.
Not that I wish that I hadn't, but I was not prepared for the degree that we got. I will say though, as I drop my pen, I will say that I thought it's funny that Ricky devolved to being. I mean, I know there was a red car, but now he's just the bull, and if you wave red in front of him, naughty. He's triggered by red.
Yeah. Which never was a thing.
It used to be so rooted in specific trauma. Now it's just the color red. The only other note that I have here, it just made me laugh, was that she ends up getting in the police car at the end, and I think she says "Merry Christmas to all" or something. She says "Merry Christmas," and as the car's pulling away, we dissolve to Bill Moseley in a tuxedo going, "And a Happy New Year."
Yeah.
And I went, he's in it. Is it because like people get dolled up for New Year's? Like he's in a tuxedo? I mean, it was laughable, but I'm like, I think they're trying to go for like he's at a fancy New Year's party, and this is like their idea of "and Happy New Year. I'm in a tux."
I'd already given up by that point, so I didn't even care.
I don't have a lot. Oh yeah, I think I remember what I was kind of going to say, which is that I knew a little bit going in, and I didn't dislike the movie. I just got a little lost, and I thought it floundered in the third act. But I mean, it's not the strongest direct sequel to 2, but I still had some fun with some of the cheese. At times, I thought the movie was a little ugly. I wasn't totally lost. To me, it lost a little bit of momentum, but I still had a certain degree of fun, but nowhere near the first 2.
No.
I actually had, you may disagree with me, I actually had more fun with 4 and 5. Just because they're not even connected to the first 2, so there's less to really be invested in.
I
Whereas
mean,
this
we'll
is
get
still,
there, but yeah.
but this is still trying to be a sequel, and I was just a little on it. Whereas there are elements to really that I, at least I don't know. There's things
Yeah.
to think about 4 and 5, like
Yeah.
not on its own terms,
No.
but like about 4 and 5.
Well, okay. I just have like one more specific thing, and then I'll sum it up. But
Okay.
I'll wrap it up because the one thing, this was a moment in the third act that actually they were still on their way to grandma's and everything, but it made me go, blah, blah, blah. And I had to turn on the subtitles to understand what was going on because they were over with Greg, the gas station attendant, and he answers the phone, and he was watching the Karloff movie. I was like, good pull. And because Frankenstein, I saw the parallel and everything. I was like, okay, cool. So the gas station attendant answers the phone, and he's talking really affectionately and just kind of being like, yeah, I'm just here working, and I'm watching, but I wish I was with you. Yeah. And I thought he said, oh, hi, Dad. So I'm watching him talk like that and saying, yeah, but I wish I was with you tonight. And I'm just kind of like, oh, that's really sweet. Like, you don't get to see like people being really, he's giving a really genuine performance and everything, like something to draw me in. Oh, I hope he doesn't die. He's probably going to. That's why I'm caring about him. And then I heard him say, oh, somebody's here. Hold on. I'll be right back. Yeah, because I want you to talk dirty to me again like you did last night. Yeah. And he puts the phone down and goes out. And I was like, okay.
I never heard Dad though, so that's on you, dude.
Because this is the thing. I was like, okay, is he joking? And that's just a weird sense of humor he has with his dad, or what am I watching? And then I let it keep playing, and I heard a voice,
You
and it
hear
was a
her on the
female
phone.
voice, yeah, going like ooh and whatever, and I'm just like, oh, it's a girl. He said dad.
No.
Did I lose my mind? I had to go back, turn on the subtitles, and watch it. And he did say the name Kathy very low under his breath, like, oh, hey, Kathy. And it sounded like dad to me. So I was like, oh, thank God. Okay. So that was the only other specific thing.
I was
that was the, yeah.
I was just thrown off because like everything leading up to that wasn't like, hey, blah, blah, blah. So it really did kind of come out of nowhere. Like, oh, I want you to talk dirty to me. I was like, oh, wait, what? Okay. Huh.
I actually wondered if this was just a movie that was like banking on like weird family connections. Like here we've got like a doctor crossing boundaries with his young enough to be his daughter patient, and then we have the same girl crossing boundaries with her brother. So I'm like, is it just like an incestuous kind of motif for this movie? And it was not, which I'm grateful for. Very grateful.
Right.
Not
taking a bath with
anyway.
his sister girlfriend. Yeah.
Oh,
and then this,
Right. But in summation, like I could acknowledge the fact that like had there been more attention and care paid, I actually really could have enjoyed this movie swinging for the fences with its ridiculousness. Like the premise was so ridiculous. I think I told you, I messaged you and just said like, hey, I'm watching this movie not knowing what to make out of it, but I'm only 15 minutes in and the premise is so ridiculous. I don't know what to tell you. You should probably watch it. It just does kind of fall apart. Like whoever was making it, I don't think cared enough. So like even the stuff that I enjoyed in the first 2/3 was like, I'm enjoying this, but I'm not enjoying this on a first movie or even second movie level. It's kind of becoming more diluted.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a letdown, and I think I dove almost immediately into the fourth one, which we can do. And I don't even have notes for it because I could not be bothered.
Yeah, you mentioned that before I got to it. You were like a day or two ahead of me on the sequels, and I think I'm gonna guess enjoyed them more than you did. Not knowing, and so I'm watching the opening credits for 4, and just constantly going like, "Wait, what? Wait, who?
Yeah.
No way, huh?" First of all, I didn't know. I mean, there's certain people I could tell you their whole body of work, and I could be very aware if they did this and that. I know the name Brian. I don't know if it's Yuzna or Yezna, but I know it in relation to Society. I know it in relation to being a producer on Reanimator, being a producer on From Beyond, and directing Bride the Reanimator. I had no idea until a few days ago that he directed a Silent Night, Deadly Night sequel.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm watching this going, directed by Brian Usna? What the? Effects by Screaming Mad George? How have I not known any of this?
Right.
You've got a movie that has Clint Howard.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And Maud Adams from two different, she's one of the few people that's been in two Bond movies as two completely different characters.
Yeah.
And you've got Reggie fucking Bannister. Like, this is, you know, a horror B movie like Dreamcast, the Clint Howard, Reggie Bannister in the same movie. Like, I should be stoked.
Right,
so I'm on board. The best thing about this movie is the cast and crew that they assembled for a straight-to-video Part 4 that has nothing to do with the other movies.
Right.
And yet, Clint Howard's name is Ricky. And they do the thing that Part 2 does, where in Part 4, at one point they watch TV, and Part 3 is on TV.
Yeah.
So I'm very confused already if this Ricky is supposed to be Ricky, because it is called Silent Night, Deadly Night. That
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but like, you can't do a Silent Night sequel and name a character named Ricky. What the fuck are you thinking? And then I'm confused even more if it's supposed to be Ricky, because now they're acknowledging that 3 was a movie. And he's like laughing about the Santa Claus killer. But if that's the case, and I'm going to skip ahead to 5 for a moment. If that's the case, because Clint Howard is back as a character named Ricky in 5, but like a seemingly different character, but he's still named Ricky. I love the idea that he's this little boy in an orphanage, and his parents were killed when he was a baby, and he watched his brother get killed, and he watched this priest dressed as Santa Claus get killed. So now he's triggered, and he's been in this coma with his brain exposed, and then he gets stabbed, but he survived the stabbing, got his head put back on, and is now like a homeless guy that works for witches, who then becomes like a mall Santa for photographers. Like, that's a hell of an arc, is all I'm going to say. It's a hell of an arc.
I didn't even, but okay. I think I didn't take notes, but I did message 2 friends of mine while I was watching it, because it was the scene in the park where they were having a picnic, and I was looking at the like, all the women of the coven, as it were wearing like scarves and had this like chunky jewelry, and I was looking at the pillows that they had lain, about this like kind of like throw rug that they were all feasting on. Yeah. And I'm going and I'm looking at it, I'm like, Caroline has that pillow. And Marnie has that scarf.
Are you in a weird fear monster creature cockroach witch coven?
Well, I think so, because I messaged them and I just said, I mean, everything I could say about the movie is probably just in this. So I'm just going to read you our little exchange here. Okay. I just told them, put this movie on the docket. Next time we want to get disgusted together. Initiation, Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 4. It's a script from 1990 written by 4 men about female empowerment. Naturally, the women moving into their power are a cult who tempt civilians with wine picnics in the park while wearing beads and scarves. And they said some stuff, and then I just said, they asked like, oh, but I haven't seen Silent Night, Deadly Night 1 through 3, so this will all probably be over my head. And I'm like, it has nothing to do with those previous movies. Those are all about a homicidal Santa. This one was obviously a script that couldn't get produced on its own, so they set it at Christmas and made it part of a franchise. And you might not want to watch after all. I just got through the meat locker rape scene. And my friend Marnie said, nothing says female empowerment like meat locker rape. And I said, especially when all the witchy women invite Clint Howard to be the rapist. Apparently, this will make the protagonist one of them. And I said, the coven basically drugs the protagonist, a female reporter in a man's world, throughout the movie with spiked wine and snacks, drawing her to the spiral, the symbol of women. It's symbolic of the snake that tempted Eve, and that's why cockroaches and ants follow them everywhere. That's then when the protagonist breaks away. Once the malicious plan is revealed, the coven send Clint Howard to retrieve her. He kills her boyfriend and knocks her unconscious. When she awakes, she's in a meat locker taped to a chair on a throw rug. Clint Howard is escorted to her in his white penis mask by the coven, who then encircle them as he rapes her because reasons. And that's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown. So
I'm glad you mentioned Christmas, because aside from taking his sort of girlfriend, whatever she is,
to his parents at Christmas,
a Christmas dinner, and then later coming to get his little brother, this movie has two little scenes that are Christmassy. This movie has nothing to do with Christmas.
He honestly could have just brought her home to meet them just for a night. Like, it's time for you to meet my parents. Exactly. I seriously thought they just dropped the Christmas thing in.
Which is why, I feel like they could dress the set for those two scenes. We really did have a script called Initiation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will say, after the earlier movies where the sexual assaults are never rape, they are assaults prior to an intended rape. Here we have a movie where it's like, nope, here we are. And I went, oh God, oh, here we go. No thanks. And I agree with you.
It's all to
it made no sense
her.
That the coven of women want to empower her, so we're gonna
by getting her raped by the lowest man that they could find to be their minion. It makes no sense. It feels like it's written by men.
Thematically, it makes no sense. Things that I liked the absurdity of the proceedings and the idea of, your fear creating these little tentacle creatures and all the bugs, but the fact that there's this giant fucking Screaming Mad George cockroach in her apartment.
Yes.
When you see his name, in the credits, you're going to get some fun kills. And this movie does deliver. Well, Eddie, I do have to ask you, have you seen Society? I feel like you haven't.
Not yet, no.
That's the bummer, is because this is not like, if you want to see good Brian Usna, you got to watch Bride of the Reanimator, and you got to watch Society.
I've seen that. Okay.
But I recommend everyone you have to see Society once. I've only seen it once. And I'm not offended by it. I will totally watch it again, but Jesus fuck. Society is an experience. And I was not prepared for this movie. This movie gives you a little society in it with the fingers and stuff. And
with the fingers bending backwards.
So I'm watching it going, oh my God, okay, we're still doing this. Holy shit. Okay. And when her legs fuse and stuff, I went, oh shit.
Yeah.
So but also reminded me of a better movie. But I had fun with the little society moments. I did not have fun with the meat locker rape scene.
No.
It is an absurd, and I forget her name. She's got a very unique name. The girl who plays Kim.
Right.
But she makes for a compelling lead actress.
Yeah.
And and this is going to sound weird, I did appreciate, I know it's a horror movie, so people have to have their tits out and get naked. I get that. But they didn't do the thing where she likes the guy at work and then later they fall for each other and they have sex later. But the movie opens with hey, we're already two consensual adults going at it. We're already kind of a unit.
Yeah.
This a thing already. I was okay, I felt like I was watching adults and not, some doe-eyed girl or some, scenario where the horror pushes them into a situation. But no, we're just here's your boobs, here's your sex. This is
right. No, and in reference to that, one thing I did appreciate I'm glad you brought that up because I had forgotten about that. But one thing I did appreciate about that was the fact that
I environment for her.
Well, because also it was that opening scene. It was reminiscent of Psycho for me, but instead of arriving post-coital, we're still mid-coitus, you know.
Right.
And I was just kind of like, oh, okay, well, this is an interesting way into a movie. That was probably the last time I felt that way. Was right at the very beginning. Because you're right, I didn't like it probably as much as you did, but I have to say I spent most of the movie feeling either insulted or aghast, or just bewildered at what I was watching, and didn't really appreciate the fact. I didn't even realize it until I moved into the next film. I was not bored once, and that says something. Like, for me to be as kind of like anti what I was watching, like, it just kept insulting me and insulting women and insulting. I mean, there were so many horrible messages that could be construed from, like, just, and it didn't get any better as it progressed. It just seemed to kind of like circle the drain. So but when it was over, I was like, well, so by the time it was over, the rules of the covenant
make no sense.
Yeah.
The idea that by the time it was over,
by the time it was over, I was just I couldn't even be happy about the fact that the little boy was saved and that she, I guess, got away from it. I don't even remember exactly how it ends, but I just remember I was like,
I was so
okay,
confused because, Ricky gets impaled and the little bugs are crawling either in or out of him, but she, turns the tables on the head witch, Maud Adams' character. She falls off the thing at the end. And then the other three women just look over the edge. And then, I feel like Kim looks at Lonnie and is like, well, I guess time to go. Like, they don't retaliate. Like, no one discusses, attacks, responds. We're just over. Not the best.
No.
Elements to it were cheesy and fun, but not the best. I was surprised by how much more fun I had with 5 based on just how fucking stupid it is.
That it is.
Once again, Brian using his back as a producer. We got Screaming Mad George back doing effects, and I thought it was funny that one of the toys is just like one of the, it looks like one of the tentacle creatures from 4, but now it's like a toy of it.
Yeah.
But once again, with these sequels, you got Mickey Rooney.
Yeah, that was an interesting tidbit because he was one of the many celebrities when the first movie came out and everybody was denouncing, like, what a horrible way to treat Santa. Is nothing sacred. Christmas is magic and you can't taint it with, your blood and your guts and everything. He was one of those people who wrote a letter, and I don't know, Variety, I don't know, the Times, like, put it somewhere, and like publicly denounced the first movie for being so destructive. And here he is in the fifth installment.
However, five has nothing to do with 1, and also a job's a job. So Papa's got to eat.
Also, he was playing a character. I love that we don't even see the name. We just hear it.
Hear
the mom. No, but the mom says, toys.
Did you hear?
Like, PEDO, like short for pedophile.
Yeah.
Yes, I did, John Carlos. So then when we saw the marquee, I laughed out loud.
Me too.
And thought, what a horrible way to be introduced to a store and to a character, because I'm never going to get it out of my head now.
Let us read PETTO first. That way we're just playing on the Geppetto thing. But when you say pedo first.
Yeah.
God damn it,
toys. Movie. It sounds horrid.
Yes, it does.
But then, the actual intention isn't much better either. It isn't much better either, the actual intent.
Oh, no, but when they walk into the store and they're like, hey, Joe, and I'm like, Joe, pedo.
And Pino.
Dr. Acula. Dr. Acula. Oh my God, Joe Pino. And then his young little assistant, Pino. I mean, God bless this movie. Who sat down and wrote Pino and Joe Pino.
Oh, I didn't feel that
I love that Kim and Lonnie and Ricky are all back.
Not Ricky. I didn't like that. I liked that Kim and Lonnie were back.
I like that but Ricky's back, seemingly fine, not survived his attack on the rooftop.
And now he's a Santa for children.
Maybe all the evil's out, and now he's a Santa for children, like the way his brother originally was, and it's a nice come full circle. He is now, yeah.
No.
I thought it was weird, like, so Kim, because Lonnie has parents.
Mm-hmm.
His older brother's dead, but it seems like she's just now, well, here's my boy that I'm always with.
Well, the parents were killed.
Were they killed?
Yeah, at the end of 4, the witches like went into the home and killed them. Oh no, not even the witches. It was Ricky. Ricky went into the house and he killed them, and that's when he had to run back into the van when Kim was abducting Lonnie and they drove over to the.
Oh yeah, and he just runs into the van. Yeah,
Here's how memorable. He had killed them.
Here's how memorable that movie is. Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay, so
no, I remember thinking that's a good. I like that. I think she would have adopted him.
Okay. That's fine then. However, I thought it was kind of funnier when I thought his parents were alive, but he's just with her now.
That is pretty damn funny.
Then I thought, is this a case of like much how like Ricky in 4, it just happens to be named Ricky, but he's not Ricky from 1, 2, and 3? Are Kim and Lonnie not Kim and Lonnie? But then she mentions like, when she's talking about like the weird shit she's been, she's like, oh, you have no idea what I've been through. And I'm like, oh, you are Kim from 4.
No, I knew they were Kim and Lonnie. I knew that.
I mean, they had to be, but like, I just thought maybe they were just kind of bringing them back and giving them the same names, as a wink for the fans.
It was something that made me appreciate the 4th movie more too, because I was just kind of like, well, at least I spent that movie kind of getting to know them. So I'm kind of rooting for them now, like there's that. Just grabbing at straws with this 5th installment.
But then to have like Lonnie's fate be like, well, then he gets these like evil rocket rollerblades.
Oh God.
And he's clearly dubbed by like either a small child or a woman, because it is not his scream. It's a woman's scream.
So bad.
No, it's so great. If I'd seen this video cover as a kid, because I managed to not see this video box as a kid, had I, that artwork would have bothered me. But there aren't a lot of original creepy toys in this. There's a little Santa thing, and there's just a lot of just like little toy army men and little toy tanks. This weird alien queen head with saw blades. I don't understand, but I mean, if you're gonna do, at least this is more Christmassy. Killer Toys is a fun Christmas premise. What makes the movie for me is the ending. I had a fucking ball, because I was very confused when Mickey Rooney is very much set up to be not necessarily a good guy, but Pino is up to no good.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that, even though this old man runs a toy store, it's called the Toy Maker, but like, who is the toy maker in this? And clearly Pino shows up in the house and he's in the closet, so he's the bad guy. But then when fucking Mickey Rooney shows up, I'm like, wait, what? Is this just bad writing? He's bad now? Because the movie never really set up for me the idea that like face swapping is going to be a thing.
Mm.
They never gave me that. So I was confused, and I just gave the movie credit for being bad. But then we reveal that Mickey Rooney's dead, and that, and then Mickey Rooney takes off his face. Mm-hmm. I love any movie where the tech does not exist, but they play it straight as if taking off your face, like, oh yeah, my dad taught me how to make toys, and now I make these toys that look like completely like real humans, and we just pull off faces, and there's circuitry, and oh yeah, it's 1991, and this is totally normal.
Yeah,
I live for that kind of shit. So I was kind of mediocre, whatever, on the movie. There was too much mystery about this guy driving by the house who turns out to be what's the kid's name? Derek. He turns out to be Derek's father. And too much dialogue with the two of them sitting in the back seat of his car. Right when the movie was really starting to lose me, and it's a movie about killer toys, so you shouldn't be losing me. The movie ramps up in the last 10 minutes as Pino, he puts on his Pino face, but he's got like the Lego battery guy head, and he's got his little like doll man body with his robo face. I was loving it. I was loving it until he tries to rape her.
Yeah, calling her mommy.
And I love you, mommy, and you're my mommy. But he's thrusting.
Oh my God! With nothing, he didn't have anything.
It's both hilarious and just icky, and what a bad choice it is. But what a hilarious way to end this movie. The last 10 minutes were absurd. I don't want to say I liked it. I had a good time for parts of it. I had a gas for the last 10 minutes. The second he popped off his face and you see, composited in like, the electrical shit. Yeah. And then also, I think it was maybe not the opening scene where the little Derek sees his dad get killed, but maybe the second they go to they go to the toy shop and like the guy Pino's wearing a mask. And the little boy's like, oh, and I looked at him and I went, because in the opening scene I went, I know you from something. But when he went, oh, all of a sudden my voice went, Granny S. Preston Esquire.
Oh my God.
No way.
Oh my God.
It's young Bill.
I didn't look it up and I didn't make that connection. Oh my God.
Bogus. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so cool. Okay, well I knew I liked that kid. I won't blame him for anything in the movie. No. I actually thought he was pretty fucking decent. But
he was, especially for not having lines and having to play a lot of it quiet.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
for sure.
Jesus, God damn it. The couple on the bed getting it on, and then the toys are in the room. Like, you're making out, and then we just keep coming back to them doing the same. Like at some point, I don't know. I'm not saying get to the good stuff, but like you need to direct it so that things escalate. But we keep coming back to the exact same action. Like this is
with the two. With people making love on the bed and then like the parents making love, what was it, in the car, wherever the fuck they were?
Right, but they're not making love on the bed. They're just foreplaying on the bed constantly.
Yeah. I know they both have their underwear on. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah, and also here's the thing that gets me is that the couple fucking in the car, like I mean, I haven't felt that awkward with the sex scene since Watchmen, where I'm just like, why is this happening? Why is it going on so long? And like, I know you missed this guy, I guess, but I would be aware, like, I probably shouldn't be fucking in the parking structure where I work. Like company policies, and I'm like, oh, in the back seat of my ex from 6 years ago's car in the parking garage of my job.
I can't join you on that.
Okay, you whore. I guess I was so not down for it.
I've never sold myself as anything else.
I know. And it went on for too long. And to cut back to like the couple that's doing foreplay, and then cut back to them like actually like acting like there's thrusting. And
right. Yeah.
The whole thing was icky. I agree. I'd rather watch Pino going mommy than that sex scene in the car. Jesus.
All I will say is big picture. This film actually made me kind of think about the films that preceded the 2, 3, and 4. The 2 films that preceded 3 and 4. Because it was almost a reverse of 3. With 3, I enjoyed those first 2 acts, and the third act, it all kind of like the wheels fell off, and the first 2 acts weren't that great. With this one, it was kind of the reverse. Like the first 2 acts weren't really that great for me. I felt like I was just watching this. And seeing Kim come back with Lonnie, I was just kind of like, oh, that's nice. But they didn't really do anything with them, and I kind of knew they wouldn't. I kind of knew they were going to be side characters, and I'm like, no. When you bring a character back in your franchise, it's most interesting if you actually do something with them. They don't have to even be the 2 main characters, but they can share the mantle. Like, don't just have them like come in for a few scenes. Yeah, they really don't. And like, except for the rollerblades, and except for, like, I always got this sense that Kim kind of had this weird recognition of like, oh, another Christmas going wrong, you know? I know about that. Ask me about last year, you know, like,
yeah.
but and we didn't even get that. But I mean, kind of, but not really. It wasn't satisfying. And then by the time we got to the Pinot reveal, I was just kind of
That sounds dirty, by the way.
I think it's supposed to. I actually was like, kind of like, oh my God, because I did not see it coming at all. And I was just, and then I was just kind of like, oh my God, like, now we have a movie. But we have like what 10 minutes of
Right?
of screen time left with credits. So this is way too late. Because also like I'm appreciating the practical effects. I did appreciate the practical effects of the toys like on the lovers and everything like that. But I was also like, you can't just get by on that. It only works if you set it up and if I'm on the ride, and then it's like one more. That should be like the next splendid step. You know, it shouldn't be like, I've been waiting around and now I'm finally getting what I've been waiting for. I should feel like I'm waiting around watching the movie. But by the time we got to the Pinot thing, and his, you know, kind of like Scooby-Doo reveal, I was down for that because I really appreciated that actor. All of a sudden, I was just kind of like, look at you. You
Totally.
are really literally not scaring, but unsettling me. But you were committed 100%. Like you're making me want to play this role because of the spirit with which he's doing it. I'm just kind of like, that would be fun. And because then you could always look back and go like, yeah, I did that in a movie. And it's because it is sick, and it's beyond that. It's bizarre. It's so like, where did this come from? But I really wish it had felt a little bit more like a component, you know, of the storytelling rather than like the peak, like the climax.
Yes.
Because it was too little too late. Even though I was excited, I mean, you know, just as a moviegoer, I was sitting there going, oh my God, something interesting, finally.
Yep.
It was too late for me to save the movie for me. I don't look favorably on it because another thing I thought during the first 2/3 was I thought I hated part 4. I was never bored during part 4. I was so angry but engaged, at least. Like I was always waiting to see like, God, what the fuck are they gonna do now? So at least I cared enough to follow it through. It was hard to sit through. I probably won't ever watch it again. And I probably would never recommend it. But part 5, I don't think I would ever recommend either. I probably just want to find people who've already seen it and talk about it with them, you know, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
I could watch the last 10 minutes again.
I wonder.
Like as a clip.
I mean, it's free. It's free with ads on Tubi, maybe. But I mean, there are so many other movies. I mean, I my go-tos are still the first 2, honestly. Well, that said,
I will say this.
Yeah.
I liked 5 more than the remake.
I was wondering about that.
Liked being a weird, because there's elements obviously to the remake that
yeah,
you know, that work more, but I found myself even it's weird to say I liked 5 more than the remake, but there are times in the new one where I was just like that I never felt during 5, even though 5 is on paper far worse, you know, in an actuality. First of all, this movie suffers from that. Not suffers, but it's one of those cases. I saw this a lot. I remember when they announced, it's only 2012. They were doing like a remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night, and they made it just Silent Night. And there's this small trend that happens sometimes where it goes into production as one title and then comes out as something else. So we don't want to fully commit to it. I remember their Terror Train remake went into production as Terror Train, but they're like, you know what? We're just going to call it Train. All right. I'm going to remember though that you are a Terror Train remake. And and there was a Silent Night, Deadly Night that is just, you know, Silent Night. You're not fooling me. But also, it's not trying to fool you either because there are these little references, you know, these little wink, wink, nudge, nudges. But
yeah, for sure.
I guess it's more of a reboot than a remake. Once again, the hell of a cast compared to the first 2 movies. That, as far as star power, because I'm not taking anything away from the acting of the first 2, but you know, just your sheer stars. I find, you know, parts of the movie a bit ugly, parts of the movie a bit dull. I love Donald Logue. I love Jamie King. I love Ellen Wong, Malcolm McDowell. These are all people that I like. However, you got Donald Logue in the jail cell, and I don't know who. Someone just had a hard on for this monologue they really wanted to write. But I'm just watching the scene unfurl going, what the fuck is the point of this? Why the fuck am I watching this?
Yes.
Why is this happening in this fucking movie?
Yeah.
I saw the movie once when it first came out. It's been 8 years. I watched it again. I don't remember almost any of it. I'm watching it again, just going like, what's the point of this killer? The whole movie, we're not going to find out anything about him. And then at the end, there's this stupid twist that we're supposed to give a shit about.
Right. That it was I don't even remember. Yeah.
They mentioned a story of a crazy Santa killer before, and now you find out he's the son of the Santa killer.
Right.
And he witnessed his dad get killed by Jamie Presley's dad. Not Jamie Presley, Jamie King.
Not Jamie Presley. That would have been great.
Jamie
oh my God.
King. No, but
Jamie Presley. Jamie King did a good job, but I feel like Jamie Presley would have been
I will say, Jamie Presley would have been, she would have
would have got some humor
a bit more.
Yeah.
Jamie King, though, I will say something here. I don't want to shit all over this movie, but I will say this. I do appreciate, I'm not going to give the movie a lot of credit and say I respect it for this, but I do appreciate that her character, I think she's a sheriff or she's a deputy.
She's a deputy.
She's a deputy.
Malcolm McDowell is the sheriff.
I like that she isn't her character because, my two older brothers really taught me how to take care of myself. And it didn't write her to be overtly masculine, even though there's nothing wrong with quote unquote traditional tough masculine women or anything. But I like the fact that she's a deputy and she's a woman, and she's just kind of, they don't write any extra reasons for why she's a girl and a deputy and good at her job. She's just, here's my character, and they didn't have to pander to make her. There's a reason why. And I just respect that. She's our heroine. She's a capable woman, and there's no particular reason why. She just is. So respect. There's no, I'm glad that that opening scene with, was it Brendan Fair? Is that his name? From, Brendan Fair from, Roswell.
Oh, never saw it.
I was so terrified that they show the other girl, but there's a bad version where she's on this path because that was her boyfriend or the guy she was sleeping with at the beginning. It just seems to me she's trying to go after the killer. In fact, when you find out that the killer killed her dad, even though that gives you a third act reason for her to be, I couldn't help but wonder, what if you didn't do that? And you're just lighting this fucker on fire at the end because it's the right thing to do and not because it's revenge. Nice cast. I have barely any notes for this. I have none. Here's what I did laugh at the, I mentioned, we saw when we were watching, I forget what movie, we were talking about Final Destination, when her feet get caught in the escalator.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm like, well, those aren't your guts. That's your ankles. Why? He has this sickle stick, and he jams it into a guy's crotch. And even if it's this much, he instantly coughs up blood. And I'm like, well, did it pierce your upper organs and lungs? How are you coughing up blood from being stabbed in the dick? I'm now laughing. I'm now having a good time. I'm certainly not having a good time during Donald Logue's monologue, but I'm having fun watching that. Same thing with when this poor model who's just taking some sexy photos, it has to run around, in her underwear for 10 minutes. When he puts her in the wood chipper, again, foot first, cuts up her foot, and what does she do? Spits out blood. Right. Yeah. Anytime someone spits out blood from getting their feet cut makes me laugh. So I had fun there. And that girl, I mean, that's a lot of time to be running around in your underwear. I don't envy her, but I mean, if she's down for it, great. But she played scared really well. I thought she worked. I did not find myself terribly amused by what I consider to be the pandering to fans when you remake something, but you don't. So we throw it all out the window, but go, hey, let's put some stuff in for the fans. So Tim Burton, we're not going to remake Planet of the Apes. We're going to do our own Planet of the Apes. So it's not the same characters. It's not the same planet. It's not the same story. But hey, remember, get your paws off me, you damn dirty ape. You remember, damn them, damn you all to hell. Remember that? Remember? Here's the line. that doesn't work for me. And so,
No.
you know, doing the antlers and just going, hey, remember the antlers?
Yeah.
Because it's called Silent Night, but it's not the same thing. Remember Garbage Day? We threw in the Garbage Day
Oh
thing.
yeah, I saw, and I was like, oh dear God.
Having the creepy grandpa, there's even less. The lack of context in the original one was great. This one just felt like I visited my grandpa, because at least the original grandpa talks about like grandpa Santa Claus will punish you, but this one he's like, Christmas is the worst day of the world. Be scared, and it just felt, I don't know, fan servicey. I don't like to sit around and talk shit on movies, but there isn't a lot to like about the reboot aside from the casting. Casting director did a good job.
Sure. I mean, I'm not going to just like shit all over this movie either. We've talked about not shitting on people's babies, and maybe somebody who's watching, maybe this is your baby. So it's not about shitting on it. It's just about acknowledge, but it's all about calling things out. Like, I mean, you can hold somebody accountable for something they did. I mean,
well, this is a case of, if it wasn't called Silent Night, I'd probably cut it a lot more slack, as it's just a Christmassy horror movie. But then why does it have to have the name aside from brand retention? And I think that's the biggest mistake.
For me, it wasn't even about that. The funny thing was, like, diving into this, I actually thought about you a lot while I was watching it, because because one thing we have talked about in terms of, like, even on the pod and even just between the two of us, when we discuss reboots and the nature of reboots, I think we even covered this in Scream 4, and its commentary on reboots and the way they look and the desaturation of color and the hopelessness and the soullessness and that kind of thing.
And the grimy kills in this one.
Right. But with this one, because I usually move into reboots just kind of like, well, I mean, people have been doing remakes ever since, every generation has its Frankenstein, every generation has its Dracula.
Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, well, in a way.
Yeah,
but in its way. But
Alice in Wonderlands, the Wizard of Oz's, there's plenty.
But I mean, even within horror, like, I'm thinking like predominantly horror, like, we have to keep like these monsters alive, and I had to, especially like in the midst of like the 2000s when reboots were obviously making money and it was clear, the writing was on the wall at some point, they're going to continue to be a thing. If I really want to be a movie fan, I need to just accept that, because I'm so tired of getting angry or even like kind of entertaining the anger that other people are directing at reboots. It's like, it's going to happen. So put your energy on something else. Stop, if you want there to be more original content, make some original content. Don't just denounce people for doing things, for trying to make some money in a business. It's a business. So go make your own content and see if you can, like, launch something, or go support movies that nobody is watching and post about it on your, there's always something you can do. So that's my hopeful thing. But as far as this movie, I did think about you, because as I was watching it, I was like, I feel like I'm watching what I feel Giancarlo's described when he's talking about, particularly a reboot he does not like. I mean, I know that's a lot of them, but it seems to have all the qualifying ingredients of a recipe for a reboot Giancarlo's might not like, because of the desaturation of color, because of the hopelessness, because of the grimy kills, and also not just the grimy kills, kind of like the steady grime throughout. There's very little humor, but more so than that, like, no light. People don't live their lives the way you live your life, the way I live my life. Mm-hmm. It's just very kind of dire. If people are smiling, it's usually ironically within the narrative, because something bad is about to happen to them. Smiling people don't get rewarded. There is no actual fun. There's a lot of people engaging in socially kind of from distasteful to disgusting acts that you're just kind of like, God, I wouldn't hang around this person, on the bus, let alone like, why am I paying money to come see a story about this person? And also a lot of over dramatization, a lot of needless exposition, a lot of needless motivation behind things, when it started so simply, and it almost feels like somebody wants to make it even more dangerous. And it's like, well, that's not the thing. I get it. I mean, this is from somebody who loves BVS because it's a particular run. I don't think, that's Batman. Yeah, that's Superman. I'm like, no, this is a Batman. This is a Superman. that appeals to me. That might disqualify anything I have to say for a lot of people watching. Sorry, but maybe you like it. But for me, it doesn't have to be like, no, that's not my Silent Night, Deadly Night. It is more about like, this isn't even really a movie. I mean, you were very kind talking about the movie, saying like, you know, if it didn't have the moniker of Silent Night, maybe you'd like it even more, or cut it even more slack. Me, I honestly don't think so. I honestly feel like it's too rebooty, you know, to not be a reboot. It feels, it does feel soulless to me.
That's a great. It's too rebooty to actually not be a reboot. Yeah.
Yeah. And I did appreciate Jamie King's performance. I just wish even her character, though, I felt like everything that she brought was what I got. They didn't do her any favors with this script. And but it was interesting to bring in a protagonist who wasn't the Santa. I thought, well, that's a twist. I wish they could have done something more with that, because now we just have this hollow killer. Because all of a sudden she's more interesting than the killer now, because the killer is just some guy with a kind of a creepy Santa mask that I didn't find creepy. I just found it dark.
Well, the whole movie, he's a faceless schmo, and then the twist is only revealed to us, the audience, and never to her. So like, at least like even she doesn't get to connect the dots or anything. It's just for us.
No.
I didn't really.
No, and it felt needless. It felt like, but that said, I think I would rank it over 5, because benefits, I was, with all its flaws, I was engaged. I wasn't as angry as I was with 4, but I was more interested in 4. So if I were going to rank it, I mean, I didn't know if we were talking about rankings or anything, but I could do it easily.
I think I could too.
Okay. Do you want to try?
I'd rather. I just want to point out that.
Go, please. Yeah.
Not only is, I mean, I get it. A lot of the reboots said, let's go grimy, let's make this movie look ugly, you know, and stuff. But like, you're right. Also, so many of the characters, you know, the priest is so needlessly written.
Oh God,
he is the fucking worst. He is the embodiment of just like, well, let's just make it gross. And but even you get to the police station, and you know the other guy who's not Ellen Wong, who just shows up kind of like, all these people are just kind of needlessly like shitty.
Yeah.
Every scene would start, you know, we get to the photographer shooting, and like everyone's just sort of an asshole. You know, the Mr. Snow Coke deal. All these people are just, I don't get why we're gonna make everyone so shitty. In fact, the only 2 times that I actually kind of enjoyed myself without going, oh, gore or something, was 2 little things. Jamie King talking to her family in the morning. It's like, oh, that's nice. Oh, we're gonna do this for Christmas. I'm like, well, no, you're not. That's not going to happen anymore, because someone here is going to be dead. But just that bond with her and her dad, it's like the only 2 people in the movie that are kind of nice. And then also, it's such a stupid little thing, but when she gets the call and she goes and she gets out of her car, it's like a long shot as she kind of walks through like Main Street. And I'm like, kind of almost reminded me of Gremlins, where we're like setting up the small town, and it's one of the few shots that isn't oversaturated with blacks and grimy. And I went, okay, more of this. Same thing with killing the girl in her underwear in the Christmas tree lot. I'm like, oh, it's bright, it's outside, you know. So there's that.
It's still a little too. I mean, it was as colorful as the movie got, I feel, but it still felt. I mean, it didn't look like a contrast. It felt like that. I think that was the thing that annoyed me the most about the movie, was also just the fact that it made that same mistake that these reboots make when they don't do it effectively, where they're just kind of like, look how scary we are. Look how dark we are. And it's just like, no. It's like Silent Night, Deadly Night, the original movie never does that. And yet there are things that make me wince and make me go, oh, no. Stop, please. That's unfortunate. You know, I mean, I'm still involved. I'm still like, this isn't pleasant, but I still want to watch it all the time. And isn't that kind of the hook with a movie? Like, I mean, if you really, again, even on the business side, if you really want to make a movie and make money off of it, make something that people are going to want to watch over and over and over again, so they can continue streaming it, or they can continue renting it, or they buy the steel book. You know, I mean, make something that people are going to get excited about. And I felt like this was just kind of more of the same, even though that might be all I have to say about the reboot.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, sometimes you aspire to make a movie that can be viewed over and over and draw people. And sometimes you just make the thing that gets that first view.
Yeah.
And that's, and
That gets that opening weekend box office from the
Yeah.
horror fans. Right.
Yeah. So, Jesus, I think I could rank them.
Okay.
Start
Start last.
last.
At the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to go first?
The remake, the reboot.
Okay. Mine is 5. Boredom is the most cardinal sin. You can anger me, and at least I'm still paying attention. But if I'm bored, sorry, folks. So yeah.
Well, that leads me to my next ranking, which is 3. There's a lot in 3 where it's just like, even with Bill Moseley with Frankenstein brain, like there's so much. Even just the scenes with the doctor in the lab, like it's such a small little boring set. Like I just want to get out of that fucking room.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's okay, so we're on
second to the bottom.
Second to the bottom for me is the reboot. Because not as boring as 5 for me. I mean, again, I think 5 has a better payoff than the reboot does. But the reboot, at least I was first time watch. If I tried to watch them again, I might feel different. But first time watch, at least I was kind of engaged, and I had a critical eye. But that means I'm paying attention, so I was paying. So yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Coming in at 4th place, I would put 4.
As would I.
I mean,
I was never bored. I said I was never bored. It was insulting, but it was interesting.
Yeah, there's elements to it, and again, like I knew from Google, like a girl gets sucked into like a coven of witches. I'm like, all right, you had me at coven of witches. Like, let's see what you got. It had some fun kills. It had some fun gore. It has a very captivating lead actress. There's a performance that can carry me through it. A little bit,
Yeah.
We have Clint Howard, on the roof, and just there's nonsense.
There's
nonsense that I can get behind.
Sometimes I love Clint Howard, and sometimes I'm just like, oh God, why are you so good at being this person?
So we both rank 4 for 4th. My 3rd place, and definitely you disagree with me, but I put number 5 at 3rd place.
Okay.
I mean, the batshit last 10 minutes can really carry a lot for me. But young Bill and toys and what can I say?
Right.
It's absurd enough that it can carry me through the boredom of some of the other ones.
Mm-hmm. 3rd place for me is the 3rd one. Just because you talk about wanting to get out of the doctor's, to want to get out of the doctor's office and everything like that. Thing is, in the doctor's office, I still have Richard Bamer giving me, she needs it, she wants it, and everything. And oh my God, it was blowing my mind.
Great.
I was just like, I'm watching an actor appreciate, and you know me with performances. I'm watching an actor appreciate and know exactly the movie he's in.
Yeah, he's great. There's just so much else in that movie. Getting to grandma's house and just like, oh my God, it just
But even it does. I said the wheels fall off for me once we're in grandma's house. Kind of like I still like the interaction between Bill Moseley and grandma, but once grandma's gone, once grandma's out of the picture, actually, that because what was that fucking apparition supposed to be? Where she sat down and then all of a sudden she saw her grandmother standing in front of her, and I was like, okay, is this her grandma's ghost visiting her? Because she shakes it off immediately and doesn't tell anybody.
Right.
And I'm like,
she's got psychic powers, so she's also got psychic ghost powers. Duh. Yeah.
But what? No, and that's fine. But then she doesn't tell anybody, and it goes nowhere. They do nothing with it. So I'm like, what was the point? So it pisses me. It does piss me off. But it's again, I'm angry, so I'm paying attention.
But you still like it enough to rank it at 3. So there you go.
Because those first 2/3 were baffling and bizarre enough to hold my attention, and it was more of the movie, more of the bulk of the movie that it occupied that than part 5 or part 4.
I feel like we're both gonna be on the same page here. 2 and then
Probably.
1.
Yeah.
2 and then 1. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's It'd be fun to almost go back and watch 1 again, having recently watched like 4 and 5 in the remake in the last couple days.
Yeah,
just a nice return. I mean, there's things I like in 2, so I'm not trying to dismiss it, but I mean, it's just give me 1. I'm good. Like that's its own little story. 2 does the best it can and makes a funny little adventure for me to continue with.
the
But
fact that
I don't have
yeah.
to watch 1 and 2. I just really like give me 1.
Sure. I mean, I will say the fact that 2 is as high as it is, and a little over half of it is not original footage. You know, it's all just kind of like recycling thing, and I can still rank it as second. I think is a huge boon to the efforts that they did put forth, even with our criticisms and everything like that. It's still a lot of fun to sit through, and if I don't watch it like on the heels of 1, I'm fine. I'm great. I like especially now that I know what I'm getting myself into. It's great. I love watching it. I love that those 2 are brothers in my head. Yeah,
I watched it on the heels of 1, and it worked. I'd never done that before, and it worked. I didn't
okay,
find it that redundant because, again, within a 5-minute span, they would constantly give me narration, or there's enough sprinkled throughout. It wasn't just 40 minutes of edited footage.
Right. Yes.
So much Ricky throughout.
Yeah.
And if you're giving a list of best eyebrow performances, then 2 would be number 1.
Oh gosh, my God, yeah. I can't even think of anybody else's eyebrows in the rest of the franchise.
Like, it's not just the like he pops them so much, but
no,
he doesn't.
Yeah.
But when I pop them, my eyes get really big. Whereas he can pop them, but his eyes. Yeah. It's interesting. Anyway, so that was folks.
Happy holidays.
I don't ever need to go through all 6 of these ever again. In that, like, that was a.
Oh no! This was a one-time thing.
Jesus, like it was. Yeah,
Go back to 1. You'll appreciate. Oh, you'll appreciate on a whole other level. You'll be like, look at that. Look at that beautiful whatever I'm looking at.
And I already appreciated it. But prior to this, I was watching so many other Christmas movies and Christmas horror movies and fun, like, and then this took up so much time of like, I have, not like they're all brilliant, but there's movies that I love. So I include 1 and Black Christmas and Krampus and Elf and Love Actually and all the hits. And then to spend so much time with like 3 and 4 and 5 in the remake. Oh God, I can't wait to go watch Krampus or something next. Like, oh Lord.
That's why seeing part 2 at the end of it was such a gift for me. It was just kind of like, okay, at least I'll get to cleanse my palate at the end of this road, no matter what it is, because it did start to look like the trend was when I was about halfway through 5. I thought, I think the rankings, if we do them, I'm just going to be on the decline like the whole time. And then the reboot gave me kind of an upswing, not exactly up, but just maybe a lateral swing to like a plateau, where I was just kind of like, okay, I'm flatlined, but I was here. And now I'm here.
That was smart to do,
1 is like out of the screen.
At the end. I wish I could have done that, but I really didn't want to watch these in a chronological release order and just kind of experience what the producers
are a hero
doing.
You're a champion.
Let's do this again. Just talking about like a movie that we both like without any of the...
Beautiful. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm there for it.
So thanks for joining me, Eddie.
Yay. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe and be up to date with all of our latest video discussions. And happy holidays.
Yeah.
Go watch the first 2.
Yeah.
Bye.